read what he has been given. I suppose if the member for Mwingi West was here also, he would have made it, maybe perhaps also in supplementary, raised similar concerns. But maybe we are lucky that the member for Mwingi West chose to be absent. But I think it's something that we need to really think through. Now, for the last time, member for Kajiado Central, Honorable Kanchori. Well, member being absent, I dropped the request. That request for statement is dropped. So you should not raise it again in the next 1 month. Because you can't make a request and then you decide to go and get the responses in the village. You wanted the request read out here in the parliament. Member for Kadiani, I can say you are burning to say something.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's about this issue of questions and statements and how we are handling them through the table office. I want to request that you advise the table office when members come, because we sit with them and we tell them what our issues are, and they are actually sometimes the ones who advise whether to put it as a question or as a statement. So maybe it's important that they guide us properly. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, on the issue like the member for Mwingi West, he's just gotten a response now. He was around the chambers, and maybe he has not even been informed that his question or statement is going to be responded to today. So it is also important that the table office also inform members when their statements are going to be responded to so that they're in the chamber. Thank you, Speaker.
Well, if the member was around the chamber, I would have seen him. Unless in his own estimation, he's a new member. Area. No. There are those ones. The member, Tom Ondege, was sitting out there and he came when we called out. So you see, it just means that his understanding of chambers is beyond the parliament throne, and it isn't, or it's around Uhuru Park. So he chose to go and get the response or follow the proceedings from Uhuru Park on the KICC grounds. But it's unfortunate. But anyway, you get the response because it's written. Leader of Majority, you wanted to say something?
I think, the chairman or chairs here under this system, they're more like conveyor belt, like the postman. They bring, I think we need to bring ministers here. And the Speaker, Honorable Mbandi, will agree with me. Ministers used to feel the heat. Those questions of, saying what you have brought is not true. It was good when ministers were here. And the Speaker, I don't want to quote who was that. I remember one of the attorney generals who served in the 10th Parliament, one time was told by a member that, after he answered the question, the member told him, you are the most incompetent attorney general in the Commonwealth. And that attorney general has retired now. Every time I meet him, he reminds me that you remember in the 10th Parliament. So I think it's not good to harass chairs here. We want ministers here. So that the ministers, now today, if the minister was here, Professor could have said what you have said is wrong, and the Speaker could have directed the minister, because he's a member of Parliament, that to go to that constituency and verify whether what you are saying is true with the member. I remember it happened during one time, Honorable Chris Obure, Minister for Public Works, was asked a question by Honorable Zakaria ZK Choriot. And ZK Choriot said, what the minister is saying, that building is not existing on the ground. So the minister, the Speaker directed the minister to go to the ground. And when the minister came back, he said, I was cheated by my technical staff. The member is right. So here we are in a catch-22. The member is being given an answer, and I agree it might not be what is on the ground. So I think the next time we get opportunity to reform the Constitution, I think we must bring at least 50% of the cabinet from members of Parliament, and even the rest. I haven't finished. Okay, 75%. Yes, or even all of them. So, Mr. Speaker, I think those of us, and I'm sure the Speaker himself was Honorable Cheboy, the Speaker, Honorable Bandi, those who were in Parliament during when ministers were here. There were a lot of, and Honorable Sophia, there were many things that even you could finish. Government was in Parliament. The Minister for Interior was in Parliament. You will have tea with him, you sort out your issue. The Minister for Roads was in Parliament. The Minister for Finance was in Parliament. Proper accountability was here. So I think we have an opportunity as a country. We have seen how a presidential system works since 2010. So let us not harass chairs. You know, chairs just been given. They are just, he's a member of Parliament like you, so Mr. Speaker. I think even the Speaker's hands are tied. Now, you know, he can't give. If the minister was here, the Speaker could have directed that before Tuesday you visit the site and you bring an answer to the House. But now the minister is not here. So I think the best route is when they come before us at the committee level, we make sure we are there and we interrogate them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Indeed, I think since the committees are supposed to be a microcosm of the plenary, I think when these statements come, it may be advisable that the chairs invite the members so that you go through the statement with the member, and if the member at that time tells the speaker, I mean the chairman of the committee, that this answer is not correct or is inadequate in these respects, then at that time, the chair and the committee are able to make a decision as to when to invite the relevant functionaries who may be the subject of the requests. So that's so as to minimize this engagement. The member is busy castigating the chairman, who is a mere conduit of some statement made, and those things which the leader majority is saying, we are aware of them. We know even ministers will get those kind of responses from their own technical staff, and when they come here is when they realize, oh, we've been misled. And see, also that is also an indication that the minister himself is so casual, believes that everything they get from their technical staff is gospel truth, without first of all knowing that that indeed this response has come from somebody who may be desirous of hiding something which is on the ground. See, the member for Macharia Borabu, Professor, he's already also completed his work. It's taken off. You see, this is the other thing now. This is the other problem. That members will ask questions, and the member for Semen, what's your point of order?
It's not a point of order. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to add how important it is that the minister should be here. And I remember at the beginning of the 11th Parliament, the effort you actually made and the whole House to actually get the ministers in. And I actually think you gave a ruling that you could actually find a way out where they could come into the House and not sit in the House and sit in the corner there. And that is the provision we are using to get the minister for Treasury to read in the House. And I think it is just politics, Mr. Speaker, that stopped that process. While we are waiting for the changes in the Constitution, I think that should be revisited, because the politics may have changed, and if the minister was to come knowing I'm going to sit on that corner of the chamber and all the members, they'll be more responsive than now. And I'll tell you, before that, I used to prepare questions. We used to prepare questions for the minister. My minister then is here. And when the TV came, we used to watch. And even as the minister is answering, if we notice they're stuck, we would actually make a quick response, call the assistant minister to give the minister the answer on the spot. So I think it's something we should not wait. If it is possible, revisit what you did. One morning we were waiting for the first minister to come, and it didn't happen. I think it can be done, and let's pursue that, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Well noted. Member for Nandi Hills, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to seek guidance on that. I think it will be that is a very crucial issue, because most members, when we try seeking statements, sometimes we are or questions forced to make it into a statement. I think, Mr. Speaker, because you've seen even the proposal by the Honorable Dr. Nyikal, when he's trying to cure that, I think, Mr. Speaker, maybe you should come with a ruling on that, on way forward, now that it is, it will not be like the 10th Parliament and before that, where ministers were part of this House. Even if they were to come and just listen from the periphery, they are not part of, they are not sitting in this House, it will be very tricky, because they will be just like, they are strangers listening in a manner that they will not respond. Maybe you should do a ruling on how these statements can be done in a manner that is going to be effective and efficient, to ensure that most of the questions which members are raising are, by the end of the day, are going to see results, because it will yield in most cases to a situation like what you've seen with most of the members, where a chair of a committee will come with a statement that is not satisfactory in terms the things on the ground are totally different from what the member or the chair are raising. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, and the Honorable Alfred Ketel was in the 11th Parliament, and you remember a lot of research work went to into coming up with a proposal that the Honorable Nyikal has addressed, and this is an issue about the presidential system of governance. Remember, in the United States of America House of Representatives, when a proposal was made that cabinet secretaries do appear there, the argument by the members there was that no. The House, the plenary of the House, is such a sacred place that it cannot be contaminated with non-elected officials. So, so that's why to avoid that contamination, we make provision for the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury it's only that he sits very close to me. So I avoid we have avoided the contamination. So it is one of those things, but it's something, it's I think, work in progress. And I think as we move on, Honorable Nyikal is saying, let's revisit these issues. Honorable John Bundy.
Mr. Speaker, actually you have said it, but I think, Mr. Speaker, as the people of this country, we prepared a bed. Let us sleep on it. We wanted a presidential system. We've got it. Let us live with its shortcomings so that we may appreciate the need to make some changes in this constitution. We have tested it. We have tried it now for 7 years. It is not working in many aspects, including accountability, which is a cardinal in any democracy. And so when we approach the time or the period or the opportunity, and that is where we agree entirely with Duale, when we disagree in many other things. But when it comes to parliamentary system, we agree with Duale almost entirely. There are people who don't even take time to think through this thing, talk with emotions, and when they come to the House here, they appreciate that presidential system is not good for our democracy. So, Mr. Speaker, we have an opportunity ahead of us. We should not even think of coming up with a way of bringing cabinet secretaries here. Mr. Speaker, those are strangers. We don't want strangers in this House. And even when the CS for Finance comes here, actually is operating more like, we are operating like a committee of the whole House. Yeah, so he's coming here, and yeah, so my view is, those members who are thinking or entertaining this thinking, or this thought that we can bring cabinet secretaries here, let us deal with the situation as it is. Committees, when there are questions, invite the CSS, invite members to be present. We deal with it until when we will amend this constitution. Because I'm seeing it, there is no two way about it. And it is one thing I'm going to miss. Because in the 13th Parliament, Mr. Speaker, I'm seeing cabinet secretary, ministers being members of Parliament, actually members of National Assembly. And I'm not going to be a member of National Assembly, and I really wanted to be a minister. So, Mr. Speaker, for those of us who are a bit unlucky and are not likely to be ministers, we wish you well. Those of you who will be here. In fact, we will be very powerful people. When we come to you, please treat us well. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Nakuru Town East, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think, Mr. Speaker, among the so many rulings that you've done and guidance, I think you've given us a way forward. As committee, as we are composed now, there is nothing much we can do other than go with what you're giving, your very, very able guidance that you're telling us, that if a committee, like, for example, these statements and the responses do come to the committees like 2 weeks before it is, maybe you're given an opportunity to be able to reply on the floor of the House. So I think what you've given a directive that we can look at as a committee, and if we think also, because you can also see as a committee whether there are some gray areas where you can invite the member, and if there are any other questions that the member might want to ask, then we can be able to put that to the ministers concerned, and then by the time we come to the floor of the House, most of these issues. But again, I agree with what Honorable Bandia just said. As it is, we made a decision in 2010. We live with that until we amend, and it is important for us. Now we have an opportunity, hopefully, through the BBI, to be able to come up with some of these changes, to be able to make. But at the same time, Honorable Speaker, it's also important. I know you had given another ruling as to who should come before a committee. And you said again, a committee needs to look at the weight of the matter being requested and decide whether it's the cabinet secretary, the principal secretary, or the ACS. In that, then you can be able to make a decision. Honorable Speaker, like yesterday, I was before the Environment Committee, and the answers that were being given by the assistant minister, or the ACS, or as they are called, administrative, whatever. Honorable Speaker, he was saying, with those other further questions, I'm going to ask my minister. Now you even wonder. And the chair directed that you cannot come here. We have spent over 30 minutes. Then are you trying to revoke what you have already said by telling us you're going to ask? So again, as committees, you also need to look at the weight of the matter and decide, should you invite the cabinet secretary or principal secretary or the assistant secretary, whatever they are called. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So, honourable members, I think now we can proceed with the business. Member Mvita, you had an intervention. No, I don't have. Maybe could call on the next order. Who is this? Honourable Wario? Order.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I raise to seek your indulgence. I have 3 brief statements to make.
Yes. I'm being shown now.
Thank you.
Yes, there's a response by the Honorable Wario. Please, yes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, response to request for statement by Hon Andrew Mwadime MP Mwatate. Mr. Speaker, on 29 April 2020, Hon Andrew Mwadime MP, pursuant to Standing Order 44-2C, requested for a statement from Chairperson Departmental Committee on Labour and Social Welfare regarding compulsory leave of Mr. Kevin Lewis Safari by Commissioner General, Kenya Revenue Authority. Specifically, the Hon member Mwadime sought information on the following. 1, what are the circumstances that led Mr. Lewis Safari being sent home on compulsory leave for 90 days by the Commissioner General? When will he be reinstated back to work at the station he was before, including payment of his dues. Mr. Speaker, I have since received a response from Kenya Revenue Authority regarding the issues raised by Honorable Member, which I wish to present. Mr. Speaker, for the first question, on 3rd of April 2020, the Commissioner General received a letter from Director of Criminal Investigation, DCI, a copy of letter which we have attached. From the letter, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Kevin Lewis Safari is under investigation for several offenses, and the DCI was requesting the authority to urgently take administrative action against Mr. Kevin Lewis Safari to mitigate the attendant risk of interfering with evidence, both documentary and electronic, as well as key witnesses. The letter by DCI presented before the Kenya Revenue Authority Board on 8 April 2020 for review and direction. Upon deliberation, Mr. Speaker, the board resolved as follows: that Mr. Kevin Lewis Safari proceed on compulsory leave in line with the Kenya Revenue Authority Code of Conduct to allow the Directorate of Criminal Investigation to complete its investigation. B, audit be undertaken by Kenya Revenue Authority Internal Audit Department to determine whether there was breach of procedures and care record of conduct on issues surrounding the gazettement of the custom areas that are subject of investigation by DCI. For the second question, when will he be reinstated back to the work and station he was before, including payment of his dues? Mr. Speaker, the Kenya Revenue Authority Staff Code of Conduct provides as follows. In relation to the compulsory leave, which Mr. Kevin Lewis Safari is serving, Clause 7.4, compulsory leave, on receipt of information, complaint against employee, the employee may be placed on compulsory leave while investigations are carried out to establish the facts of such information or complaint. Compulsory leave will not affect the employee's annual leave. In such circumstances, the employee will remain on paid leave until the facts into the information or complaints are established. If within the control of the authority, the compulsory leave will not exceed 3 months. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two other very brief statements, Mr. Speaker.
Please give them also so that they can ask the members to respond.
Thank you.
Give me those two.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Response to request for statement by Hon Abdulsamad Nasir, MP Mwavita constituency. Mr. Speaker, on 4th of June 2020, Hon Abdulsamad Nasir, MP, pursuant to Standing Order 44-2C, requested for a statement from Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare regarding non-payment of youth engaged by government under the National Hygiene Program, also referred to as Kazi Mtani. Specifically, the Hon Abdulsamad sought information on the following. 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain why youth engaged in Kazi Mtani program to over-service during the COVID-19 pandemic period are yet to be paid, noting that the program was initiated to cushion the young and unemployed citizens in the country. 2, what measures has the ministry put in place to ensure youth are regularly paid without delay? And 3, is the Cabinet Secretary aware that the youth have not been provided with personal protective equipment? Mr. Speaker, I have received response from the State Department of Housing and Urban Development, where a program is anchored on the issues raised by Hon Member, which I wish to present. For the first question, Mr. Speaker, I beg to respond. We confirm that the youth are regularly paid for the work done on a weekly basis through mobile money transfer. However, during the initial period, we experienced some challenges of non-payment of some youth because of the following. 1, youth provided telephone numbers that were not registered with M-Pesa, and therefore Safaricom could not successfully remit. However, this has been addressed by encouraging youth to register. 2, Mr. Speaker, some youth provided telephone numbers that do not match with their IDs, resulting in mismatched details. This was especially the case when youth used IDs which belonged to other family members. Some youth, Mr. Speaker, had blocked or frozen numbers due to having taken Fuliza loan from Safaricom. In Mvita constituency, Mr. Speaker, Kazi Mtani initiative have engaged a total of 3,500 youth from Kachonjo, informal settlement, and Old Town, who are distributed into 2,000 from Kachonjo and 1,500 from Old Town. Question 2, Mr. Speaker. What measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that youth are regularly paid without delay? Mr. Speaker, mobile money transfer companies have been prevailed upon to allow payment to be made to the numbers presented regardless of mismatch with the national ID numbers, provided these workers are able to fill indemnity form. 2, the ministry has employed supervisors at the county level to manage the attendance and the preparation of payrolls. We have managed to engage one supervisor for every 20 workers to manage the workflow and expedite the process. 3, the payrolls are submitted for payment every Wednesday. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the last question: is the Cabinet Secretary aware that youth have not been provided with PPEs? Mr. Speaker, we have provided PPEs, which include gumboots, face masks, heavy-duty gloves, reflector jackets, to youth with clear guidelines on the observation of the Ministry of Health on COVID-19 protocols. However, we note that some youth in some areas in Mombasa and Mandera do not put on particularly gumboots due to weather conditions, but we are enforcing this through Ngao, NYS, and Nyumba Kumi supervisors. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The final statement, Mr. Speaker. Sorry, there are a bit many. Statement by Chairman of Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare, pursuant to Standing Order 44-2C, on disparities regarding distribution of cash transfer to elderly, orphans, and persons living with severe disability, sought by Hon Simon Kingara MP constituency. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give a statement as requested by Hon Simon Kingara MP on 6th May 2020 as follows. What measures have been taken to ensure that all elderly persons, orphans, and persons with severe disability are incorporated in Inua Jamii Cash Transfer Program? Mr. Speaker, it is the intention of the government to cushion all elderly persons aged 70 years and above, orphans and vulnerable children, and persons with severe disability by incorporating them into Inua Jamii Cash Transfer Program. However, due to budgetary constraint, only a certain number is reached. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the program has 1,094,238 who have been successfully migrated from card-based to account-based mode of payment as follows. 766,254 older persons, 293,963 orphans and vulnerable children, and 34,017 persons with severe disabilities who are spread across constituencies in the country. Mr. Speaker, in Ruiru constituency, the program covers 2,124 beneficiaries as follows. 1,400 older persons, 552 orphans and vulnerable children, 172 persons with severe disabilities who are spread across the constituency. The ministry have further confirmed that 105 older persons, 25 orphans and vulnerable children, and 41 persons with severe disability were not migrated to account-based mode of payment due to mismatch in the data availed to the ministry. Further, it is important to state that above condition is not static. Since any given time, there are people turning 70 years, others are being orphaned, and others, Mr. Speaker, are severely disabled due to accidents. The ministry continuously updates this data and targets new beneficiaries subject to the availability of funds. What steps has the government taken to ensure that the said needy persons who qualify to benefit from the program in Ruiru constituency and who from the year 2018 have not been included in the system despite having been registered? Mr. Speaker, it is true that there are some needy persons who were registered in 2018 in Ruiru constituency, like in many other constituencies in the country, and could not make it to the payroll. This was due to inaccuracies in the records after data was subjected to integrated population registration services. And there are those who turned 70 plus and have not been brought into the program, not just in Ruiru, but all over the country. In order to correct these inaccuracies, the ministry is planning to carry out countrywide retargeting, re-registration exercises with the aim of collecting fresh information on all those cases and incorporate them into the payroll. Mr. Speaker, the exercise has been hampered by inadequate resource allocation. In the current financial year 2019-2020, the budget deficit stands at 3.9 billion shillings. To include all the needy persons above the age of 70 years, currently estimated to be 250,000, the ministry will require a further 6.6 billion shillings, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this was one of the recommendations made by my committee to the Budget Committee for 2020-2021 estimate. If this request is granted, I then can commit to the House that all the deserving cases in Ruiru constituency and the country as a whole will be brought on board. Finally, Mr. Speaker, could the relevant ministry state that the timeline for the disbursement of the cash and opening up of the systems to update the names of those who were not included previously? Mr. Speaker, on updating the names of those who are not included previously, the ministry is planning to carry out fast re-migration, which will involve retargeting and re-registration or targeting of beneficiaries in the legacy file as soon as COVID-19 pandemic situation improves to allow field-based activities. On the other hand, Mr. Speaker, updates of beneficiary informations are continuously being carried out centrally at the ministry's headquarters whenever they are received. However, in future, it is the plan of the ministry to decentralize management information system module, which deals with the change management to the counties and sub-counties so that all the updates are done by the officers at that level. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, Honorable Mwadime, is there anything you would want to say about what you have given regarding your request?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Just standing to say thank you to the chairman of Labour Committee. Actually, the answer it is to my satisfactory. But I'm just praying after those 90 days, they just play fair game. Otherwise, it was a good answer, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, sir.
Continue with the prayers. Honorable Abdul Samad Nasir.
Asante sana Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, kwanza kuweza kutoa shukrani zangu za dhati kwa mwenyekiti kwa kuweza kuelezea, na pili, asiyeweza kumshukuru binadamu hamshukuru Mwenyezi Mungu. Vijana 3500 kutoka Mvita ni hadi ya 11% ya vijana wote walioweza kuajiriwa katika Kenya hii, vijana waliochukuliwa ni 31,448. Bwana Spika, ile siku nilipoliuliza hili swali, vijana walikuwa bado hawajalipwa, na baada ya kuweza kuliuliza hili swali, vijana waliweza kulipwa. Na nataka kukubaliana Bwana Spika pia ya kuwa kuna vijana wengine ambao wamechukua mikopo ya Fuliza, wengine wameweka majina yao, kuna wengine wamechukua majina wakaweka jina la girlfriend wake ama mumewe. Yako haya yametokea, lakini tumeweza kufanya kikao na Assistant County Commissioner Mombasa na machifu, na tunajaribu kuweza kuyatatua kimjini. Lakini kuhusiana na hili swala la vyombo na vifaa ambavyo kwamba walikuwa waweze kupatiwa, kwanza kuna karatasi ambayo nimeweza kuichukua kutoa room 8 table office yetu ya bunge, na ile karatasi inazungumza tofauti na mwenyekiti alivyoweza kuzungumza, kwa sababu hii karatasi inaweza kueleza wazi ya kuwa hawajatoa vifaa vyovyote, lakini ile statement ambayo imeweza kusomwa na mwenyekiti ni kwa vifaa vimetolewa. Mimi mwenyewe kibinafsi ninataka kutoa uhakikisho ya kuwa vifaa vileweza kutolewa ni baadhi vilitolewa na serikali ya county, baadhi nyingine vilitolewa na shirika la Kenha, na baadhi ya vyombo vingine vilitolewa na mashirika yasiyokuwa ya kiserikali kuweza kusaidia na makampuni yale ambao yako katika sehemu ile. Kwa hivyo ningeomba kwa unyenyekevu, na wala hatupingi, hatufanyi jambo lolote, lakini ni sawa tuweze kufanya kazi kwa pamoja ili tujue linaloendelea ni lipi. Kwa hivyo ingelikuwa ni bora mwenyekiti aweze kuulizia hili swala la hivi vyombo ambavyo kwamba vinasemekana vimechukuliwa, visije vikawa vimechukuliwa vikapatiwa vijana walioko katika hewa na vijana walioko katika mashinani hawajaviona vifaa hivi. Bwana Spika, asante.
Mheshimiwa Wario.
Mheshimiwa Spika, asante. Nachukua fursa pia kumshukuru mheshimiwa. Kama wenye viti tuna matatizo, uliyazungumzia hapo mbeleni Mheshimiwa Spika. Tunapewa taarifa na tunakuja kusoma taarifa ndani ya nyumba. Ili tuweze kutatua, wiki ijao siku ya Jumatano nitaalika wizara husika, na mwalika ndugu yangu na mheshimiwa ahudhurie ili tujue mbivu na mbichi pamoja. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Shukran. Mheshimiwa Simon Kingara, member of Ruiru. I put in your request. No, give him. What number?
To one. Oh,
So,
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. It's good to understand we thrive in a very difficult time to conduct business here in the House and outside of the House. Maybe that's the hitch. May I take this opportunity, Honorable Speaker, to thank you for according me this opportunity to represent the great people of Ruiru, especially on matter concerning older persons, orphans, and vulnerables in my constituency. Mr. Speaker, I think it is in order to also to take this opportunity to thank the Jubilee government because 2020-2021 financial year, they have allocated 17.6 billion to the older persons, 7.9 billion to the orphans and vulnerable children, and lastly, Mr. Speaker, 1.2 billion to people living with severe disability.
Why not clarification from the chairman? If you look at order number 8, what you are saying is not yet until you vote on motion appearing on order number 8.
Thank you for the guide because I want to finalize as a request. It's a request which they have put. It shows some concern. That's what I wanted to finish with. It's a good concern. And Honorable Speaker, may I say this? I would also like to point out that the data in rural constituency has not been updated since 2018 to date. As stated, the condition of needed cases is not static. I agree with that. And this shows that there could be possibly many needed cases out there that are not yet considered, especially during these difficult times that features the COVID-19 pandemic. Honorable Speaker, you have also noted when the answer was going on, about 105 older persons, 25 orphans, and vulnerable children, 41 people living with severe disability were not migrated to the account-based mode of payment in 2018. You see, Mr. Speaker, these people had hope, and actually they were waiting, just to find that they were not incorporated, and you know at age of 70, nobody can employ you. I don't know whether anybody can employ. So, Mr. Speaker, it's a big concern, bearing in mind that we have about 500,000 people there. And you know, it's an urban area. There's nowhere you can plant even a single plant of potato. Mr. Speaker, you also find that the money which they were allocated, or the proposal which they had given last financial year, they had a deficit of about 4 billion. That means even the budget which is proposed now, Mr. Speaker, the burden of 4 billion will be carried forward. So it means still many people who are needed will still not benefit as we progress. And it's my humble request, Mr. Speaker, this House and other relevant institutions consider looking into budget for the transfer program with an intention to increase the amount so that we can try to bridge the gap, bearing in mind that all citizens are equal. You can imagine, Mr. Speaker, sir, a neighbor who is 71 is getting money, while another at 80 is not getting. It's a big challenge, Mr. Speaker.
So are you seeking a clarification, or you want to make a statement?
As other members argued, you know, you are guided to how you put your statement or a question. But you see, if it's not satisfactory, Mr. Speaker, I will not sit here and say I'm satisfied. So it is still a concern, and I wish the chair, because he is the representative of the ministry, to take such concern so that they are taken forward until people are accomplished. I think that's the way forward. But maybe, Mr. Speaker, before I conclude, I would also state that we can come up with a program or a procedure where the money for people living with disability, older persons, can be increased in each and every budget progressively, so that one time it will be able to cover as many needy people as possible. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That sounds like a submission before the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Who is this? Is that Honorable Mutunga? What is the issue?
Honourable Speaker, I just wanted to mention something about what has been going on, the discussions that have been going on, and the frustrations that we go through sometimes when we are dealing with questions that are not fully answered, or when we are not able to reach effectively the ministers that are concerned. And it takes a lot of time for us to be able to move forward. Honourable Speaker, in the budget statement this year, something was introduced called Kazi Mitaani. And we need a policy statement on how Kazi Mitaani is going to be conducted, because they're asking questions out there. I did not hear the chair allude to that in detail, but he mentioned Kazi Mitaani. Honourable Speaker, there's the other issue also of what he has been talking about, persons with disabilities and the old people The question we are normally asked when we go out there is, when are we going to be paid? How are we removed from the schedules? I think when there was some kind of substitution. Those people who are being paid in the past were removed, and the younger people were put in the schedule. So we have a problem. How can we as a house clear this problem? Because it is serious. They even ask you who is more likely to die earlier. Is it a person who is younger than me, who is 70 today, or am I the one who is likely to die at 88? So that is a serious issue we need to address as a house, and we need to see how we can clear the backlog from the oldest, to the youngest. And finally, Honourable Speaker, when it comes to updating the data, we always go to do research. Every time we go back and try to collect data, the question we have is, why do we do so much research when we have already collected so much data always? Like last year we had census. That census captured everyone and the situation of every person in this country. Don't we have analysts in this country? Why do we have to spend money to go to do research every time and to ask the assistant chiefs and chiefs to ask people whether they are poor when we already know they are poor because they have stated it? Thank you, Speaker.
Well, to the extent that you appear to ask the question to me, you get no answer. To that extent, because I'm unlikely to know whether they are researchers or analysts and others. But I do recall in not too distant past that the Honorable Wario did give a statement here, which was addressing the general issues that Honorable Mutunga you've raised, particularly with regard to how certain older persons are not being captured, yet those who graduate into the 70 and plus appear to be getting captured faster. I think there's a statement that the Honorable Wario gave here not too long ago, and it seems to address that issue, and was addressing a range of some of the challenges, because apparently there are some of them who may have been there previously, but have somehow mysteriously dropped out of the list. I think all we need to do is just look at that statement issued by the Honorable Wario, so that then, as a house, if they need be, then you can propose some mechanism by which you can give input to the relevant authorities to implement, so as to capture, to ensure that those that are much older don't exit while they have not exited from Earth. They are still living, but they appear to have gone out of the records, the data that you refer to. But I think maybe I could give Honorable Wario to make some response. Or member from where you also wanted to, I hope it's not the same lamentation, please.
No, slightly different. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While I am on the same point with my colleague, Dr. Mutunga, I want to add something new to that, Mr. Speaker. We know as a country we have moved forward in the use of mobile money, and that is what we are using to disperse or dispense money to the would-be beneficiaries. But use of systems, Mr. Speaker, have their own challenges, and it's very important that the department concerned recheck how to audit the transactions that do take place, Mr. Speaker. While we are at home, Mr. Speaker, much of our time is occupied by inquiries on this particular program, Mr. Speaker. We like it, but the questions that come, especially on displacements or people who were receiving cash, they are no longer receiving, we don't understand how they were removed from the system. Or people who come, they have registered, they are not receiving their money. The answers we get from the immediate people whom we talk to, that is GAO, is that records were not proper or they were not entered. Mr. Speaker, I am persuaded that much of this could be due to some system problems. And we must, as a House also, be cognizant that much of the malpractices do happen through computers, Mr. Speaker, and therefore we cannot assume that people who are not receiving cash are not receiving because of record. There could be people out there who have simply diverted these transactions to some particular numbers which are receiving this cash. And that being a possibility, I would urge that the department concerned take it much more seriously. Let us not just talk about people being repressed. Let us not talk about records not being proper. Let us think further that we are in a world full of knowledge, world full of malpractices, where some of these things could be happening, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Now let's just get Honorable Wario to make his final remarks, so that we can go to business. You know, we are not yet in business.
Thank you.
No, this is not business. There's a serious business. There's very serious business. You know, the member for Funyula is new in this thing, so he may think that this is business. This is not. When I say business, you just have to look at the order paper. The order paper is the one that shows business. So this is not.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And you rightly put, 2 weeks ago, I tabled a report here with an electronic report showing per constituency the number of beneficiaries. We elaborated in that report the challenges, the bigger challenges which is facing us. And in that report, Mr. Speaker, we said currently in this financial year, we have a deficit of 3.3 billion. In the recently concluded census, there are 250 persons, 70 plus. Mr. Speaker, for us to bring all of them on board, we need 9.9 billion shillings. I have appeared before the budget committee. I have shared with them that challenge. If at all we will be included, we will address this problem once and for all. Research is key and important, Mr. Speaker. Members are only concerned on those who reach the age of 70. There are those who die also, Mr. Speaker. We need to clean the register. We need to bring on board those who are 70. That way, Mr. Speaker, we will speak from a point of knowledge. Finally, Mr. Speaker, Mheshimiwa Simon is saying of unsatisfactory answer. Last week, Mr. Speaker, I have called Mheshimiwa Simon 6 times. I text him. We called the ministry so that before I bring this answer, I invited him to sit with the minister and share his concerns. Unfortunately, my phone was not going through. I texted him. I didn't get a text back. So what do? I have to report what I have been given, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And that could be the same problem with your constituents whom you are complaining about. If the member who sought the statement himself cannot be reached by the chairman, no, I'm not going to allow. I'm not going to allow. This is not business. And you know, once I say it is over, it is over. That is the way it is. So if Honorable Wario could look for the member 6 times,
and I text him again.
Then text him, he doesn't still get an answer. It may well be, might it be the case that then the member has given the wrong contact, the wrong number. So please go and sort out also those problems. They could be with you. I don't want to go into other areas. As you know, I am also dealing with some of you in other things that you have done here. So it's not a problem which is just out there in the village. It could be something very infectious. It could have actually gotten into you, and you may have brought it to Parliament. I will not elaborate, but just to know that these things are there. Please, let's not make that to be the business of the day. In any event, the Honorable Wario, as I said that he tabled a report here. I would have been happier to hear a member saying that this report which was tabled, the one he has referred to, it has this weakness or the other. But you see, he tabled, it is in the table office. No, it is in the table office. Honorable Nyikal, you know what you are doing now is now. So go and get that statement. If you need, you can bring through a motion. Then we can have that. We can debate that. But certainly not through the medium of a request for a statement. Then we make it. This house, obviously, as you know, operates quite different from the other one. You know, statement is not. This is not business. It's just like questions. You know. So please, let's not. Let's just move to the other one. Unless Honorable Bandi, I see the standing orders. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, actually, my point of order is on something different from what we are discussing. I think Honorable Wario has ably presented the statement. The rest can be followed up later. Mr. Speaker, allow me, and I'm going to be very brief, because I know we should get to the business, the main business that has brought us here. But Mr. Speaker, I'm raising under Standing Order number 44, 2B. Mr. Speaker, the standing order says that the leader of the majority party or the leader of the minority party, as the case may be, or their designees, may make a statement relating to their responsibilities in the House or the activities of a committee. Mr. Speaker, I am standing here to raise a matter which I think is of interest to us as a House. It is a matter of accountability and, more importantly, an oversight function of this House. And as the leader of minority, Mr. Speaker, we passed supplementary budget here, the last one, Mr. Speaker, and we actually were magnanimous as a House and decided to cut the budget of Parliament by 3 billion shillings. And we decided to ring-fence this money and channel it direct towards mitigation of COVID-19 cases. And we actually allocated this money to about 8 or 9 regional health facilities. I remember, Mr. Speaker, we allocated 500 million to Kenyatta National Hospital, about 500 million to Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral, 400 million to Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, 400 million, Coast General Hospital, 500 million, 300 million each to Kitui and Mandera, and I think some amount to Mbagathi. Mr. Speaker, my concern is the reports that I'm getting is up to this moment, this amount has not been released to these hospitals to allow these health facilities to prepare to address any eventuality or any spike in the cases of COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, to me, this is a clear case of the executive being careless, and I would want to ask and use my position in terms of oversight to request the committee chair, the health committee chair, and maybe the chair of the implementation to follow through this matter. Find out if Treasury has not released money, they should release money to the Ministry of Health. If the Ministry of Health has received the money, this money should go to this health facility so that it is spent on, to provide services that we earmarked this money for. Mr. Speaker, that is what I wanted to raise. And if you allow me, I don't see the chair of Health Committee, but I'm sure she will be able to get the Hansard and act on this matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The chair of implementation is here, the Honorable Kenta. Honorable Kenta, that's a very, very valid concern, because those were resources which were earmarked for Parliament. And Parliament was magnanimous enough, because the rest of the people just want to go and parade to say that they are bringing some funny small checks. Parliament was magnanimous enough. So I think, Honorable Kenta, you should follow up that matter alongside your colleague, the chair of Health Committee, and give us a report here on Thursday next week.
Fine.
Because the year is coming to an end. Honorable Kenta.
Honorable Speaker, I shall do that. In fact, it's been a problem following most of these things because the executive doesn't seem to take the parliamentary decisions or resolutions seriously. And this is one that we must really follow. Because if we can actually forego some of our privileges for the people we represent, I think it is wrong for the executive to play around with our decisions. And we shall do that, and we give an undertaking. Honorable Speaker, thank you very much.
Very well. Leader Majority, what's it?
Speaker, this matter, both in the Constitution and in the PFM Act, is very, very clear. That once this House, either in a supplementary or in the main estimate, an appropriation bill is passed and warrants are presented to His Excellency the President, which you always witness, that matter settles there. The money goes to the respective units, even if it is the smallest village And nobody can change. Even the Minister for National Treasury cannot change unless he changes through a supplementary estimate. So, Mr. Speaker, I think this is a very serious matter. This was supplementary, which means this money must be spent before the end of this financial year. And it was because Parliament felt that, for example, why Mandera was given, because the numbers in Mandera were very high compared to the other counties in the north. Why Kitui was given, there was a specific reason. Why I think all the hospitals. So I think, Mr. Speaker, now the money must be with the Ministry of Health. The onus is health, and I think both implementation and the health committee must give a very good report as you directed on Thursday. But going forward, nobody can, if you read the Speaker, and I'm sure you have members are aware, Article 221, subsection 7, section 6. The President signs an appropriation bill into an act, and he signs a warrant with a specific project. So I think it is high time, the numbers are increasing, that the Committee of Implementation on Honorable Sabina Chege needs to ask. In fact, on Thursday, they should tell us the money has been disbursed to these institutions, because we have passed and the money is there, and Parliament is the one that you chair as a PAC chairman, to magnanimous to help Jaramogi Odinga and all the other hospitals.
Yes, I think that is that. Before we move to the next order, there's something that the leader majority was supposed to move.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the following procedural motion, that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 30, subsection 3A, this House resolves to extend the sitting of time of the House until conclusion of the business appearing under Order number 11 on today's order paper. Speaker, Order number 11 is the Finance Bill second reading. And we are aware that both the budget and the Finance Bill have a timeline of 30th of June. In fact, 30th of June, they must be assented to. So we are only remaining with the next week, Tuesday, so that we can finish second reading today, make sure, and in line with the motion that we passed, that we don't hurry the budget report and the Finance Bill committee report and the second reading. So we want to give each and every member, those in the chamber and those outside the chamber, to contribute to this important bill so that we can extend it, because tomorrow we are not sitting, and Friday we are not, tomorrow is Friday, we are not sitting. So that come Tuesday, we deal both in the morning and in the afternoon, we deal with the Committee of the Whole House of the Appropriation Bill for 2020-2021 and the Finance Bill, and then give both Parliament, the State Law Office, and the Government Printer and the National Treasury to prepare the vellums for signature. Because these are numbers, it's not an ordinary bill. Even Parliament staff, the State Law Office, the National Treasury, and the Government Printer, all of them need not less than 7 days before presenting these bills for assent on the 30th or by the 30th of June. And that's why I feel like we did last Tuesday when we were doing Committee of Supply. We finished by 7 o'clock. So if by 7 o'clock we have no member contributing to the Finance Bill, we are home and dry. But if in case there are members, the interest of the members will be there, we can continue until 8 or until even 9. So that is the essence of this, and this is a decision of the House Business Committee chaired by the Speaker. So I beg to move and ask Honorable John Bundy, the Minority Leader, who is also a member of the House Business Committee, to second.
Honorable Bundy. Sorry?
Mr. Speaker, as you had pointed out earlier, actually business is just about to begin, and this afternoon we have quite a packed agenda to discuss, but more importantly is the Finance Bill that Honorable Duale has spoken to. Mr. Speaker, this House will remember that, we recall that in 2011-2012, after the passage of this 2010 Constitution, there was a paradigm shift in terms of processing the appropriation bill. Previously, it used to be very easy for appropriation bill. You prepare it, you could even pass appropriation bill after June. But immediately we passed the 2010 Constitution, it became mandatory that this appropriation bill must be passed before 30th June and assented to. So we want to have the appropriation assented to before 30th June. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, up to this year, finance bill we have been dealing with after June. Actually, we have been dealing with finance bill up to September, and allowing government through a statute law to be able to charge some taxes. But then again, that went to court, and it was declared that both finance bill and the appropriation bill must now be passed before 30th of June. Therefore, if you look at our calendar, Mr. Speaker, we only have Tuesday and Thursday next week to effectively deal with these two bills. But we want to finish both of them by Tuesday, so that we have Wednesday and Thursday and possibly Friday for the Parliament to put them in order. Because you know, appropriation bill, Mr. Speaker, has so many figures, so many line items, so many budget lines, and ministries and departments which require accuracy. So we are requesting this House to conclude second reading of finance bill today. Then on Tuesday, we will do committee of the whole House for finance bill and have appropriation bill go through all the stages, conclude it, and have the two bills be prepared by the House, put in order by our staff for onward transmission to the President, so that by Friday, the President can assent two bills, they become law, and then the government now would have the authority of the people's representatives, not only to spend, but also to collect money. Mr. Speaker, I second.
Honourable members, before I propose the question, I think the point raised by the Honourable John Bandi is extremely important for this House to appreciate. And once again, I'm happy that the Honourable TJ Kajwang is in the House, in the chamber, as a senior member of the Procedural House Committee. Because what has been stated by the Honourable John Bandi is important for this House to know that the courts ruled the Professional Collection of Taxes Act of 1959 to be, in the context of our current constitution, unconstitutional. Because that is the law that allowed government to professionally collect taxes up to the end of December of each succeeding year. But now with that court ruling, then we must move with speed to even have it repealed. And whatever is relevant in it be incorporated in the PFM Act. But for us also, it's important now for the Honorable Kajwang and the Honorable Soipan in the Procedural House Rules Committee to also consider the suitability of our standing order number 245, subsection 4, which talked of the National Assembly not later than 90 days of the passage of the appropriations bill to then pass the finance bill. As you can see, it's also a contradiction in terms, because you can't talk of the appropriations bill, which would, as you know, must be passed. Actually, not even the date is 26th of this month, not later than that. So I think Honorable Kajwang, Honorable Soipan, again, Procedural House Rules Committee, look at the relevance of 245, subsection 4 of our standing orders. Honourable members, I propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of standing order number 30, subsection 3, paragraph A, this House resolves to extend the sitting of the House until conclusion of the business appearing under order number 11 on today's order paper. Put the question that pursuant to the provision of standing order number 30, subsection 3, paragraph A, this House resolves to extend the sitting time of the House until conclusion of the business appearing under order number 11 on today's order paper. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honourable members, Before we go to the next order, as I indicated, allow me to give this communication, which is necessary for avoidance of doubt and to remove some existing or prevailing confusion in the air. As Standing Order number 176 relates to discharge of a member from a committee, and it provides as follows, and I quote: 1, a parliamentary party may discharge a member from a select committee after according the member an opportunity to be heard. 2, the parliamentary party whip and the party that nominated the member to a select committee shall give notice in writing to the Speaker of the intention to discharge a member from a select committee. 3, the Speaker shall, within 3 days of receipt of the notice under paragraph 2, inform the member of the notice. Honourable members, in this regard, I wish to report to the House that my office is in receipt of a letter dated 16th June 2020 from the majority party whip notifying that the Jubilee Party has discharged 16 of its members from certain select committees as follows. 1, the Honourable Ali Haji Adan MP stands discharged from the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock, where he's been serving as the chairperson. 2, the Honourable Kimani Ichung'wa, CBS MP, stands discharged from the Budget and Appropriations Committee, where he's been serving as the chairperson. 3, the Honourable Gladys Bosch Sholei, MP, discharged from the Select Committee on Delegated Legislation, where she's been serving as the chairperson. 4, the Honourable William Cheptumo, MP, stands discharged from the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs, where he's been serving as a chairperson. 5, the Honourable Dr. Victor Munyaka, MP, stands discharged from the Departmental Committee on Sports, Culture and Tourism, where he's been serving as a chairperson. 6, the Honourable John Koi Weluke, MP, stands discharged from the Departmental Committee on Administration and serving as the vice chairperson. 7, the Honourable Friend Chesebe Kapondi, MP, stands discharged from the Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee, where he's been serving as the vice chairperson. 8, the Honourable Dr. Robert Pukose, MP, stands discharged from the Departmental Committee on Energy, where he's been serving as the vice chairperson. 9, the Honourable Alice Wahome, MP, stands discharged from the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs, where she's been serving as the vice chairperson. 10, the Honourable Joyce Chepkoril Koech, MP, stands discharged from the Departmental Committee on Labour and Social Welfare, where she's been serving as the vice chairperson. 11, the Honourable Khatib Abdallah Mwashetani stands discharged from the Departmental Committee on Lands, where he's been serving as the vice chairperson. 12, the Honourable Catherine Waruguru, MP, stands discharged from the Select Committee on Member Services and Facilities, where she's been serving as the vice chairperson. 13, the Honourable James Lomenen Ekomwa, MP, stands discharged from the Select Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunities, where he's been serving as the vice chairperson. 14, the Honourable Liza Chepkoril Chelule, MP, stands discharged from the Select Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting and Library, where she's been serving as the vice chairperson. 15, the Honourable Cornelis Rem, MP, stands discharged from the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, where he has been serving as the vice chairperson. And 16, the Honourable Moses Kuria, Head of State Commendation, MP, stands discharged from the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing, where he's been serving as the vice chairperson. Honourable members, having perused the documents through which the Jubilee Party transmitted the decision to discharge the said honourable members, I am satisfied that the process leading to the discharge met the requirements set out in Standing Order 176. Accordingly, the discharge of the said members takes effect immediately. Honourable members, the House is invited to note the provisions of the following standing orders. 1, Standing Order number 179, subsection 2, provides, subsection 2, and I quote, Whenever a vacancy occurs in the office of chairperson or vice chairperson of a select committee, the clerk shall, within 7 days of the vacancy arising, appoint a place and time for the meeting of the committee to elect the chairperson or vice chairperson. 2, standing under 173, subsection 3, provides, and I quote, a vacancy occasioned by resignation or removal of a member from a select committee shall be filled within 14 days of the vacancy. Close the quotes. Honourable members, the affected members, the clerk of the House, are accordingly advised. I thank you. Next order.
Order number 8, motion. Report of the Committee of Supply on the budget estimates for the financial year 2020-2021. Question to be put.
Honourable members. If you could take seats. Just take your seat briefly. This is brief. Honourable members, debate on this motion was concluded last Tuesday. What remained is for the question to be put, which I hereby do. This House do agree with the Committee of Supply in its consideration of the budget estimates for the financial year 2020/2021, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 221 of the Constitution, Section 39 of the Public Finance Management Act of 2012, and standing under 240, approves the issuance of a sum of Kenya shillings 1,887,661,995,757 from the Consolidated Fund to meet the expenditure for the national government, Parliament, and the judiciary during the year ending 30th June 2021 in respect of the votes as approved in the schedule to the order paper. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. Now, members, that paves the way for the preparation of the appropriations bill. Next order.
Order number 9, motion. Approval of nominees for appointment to the constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund. Question to be put.
Question to be put? It's a question to be put. Oh yeah. Yes, Honourable members, again, the record shows that the debate on this motion was concluded, and therefore, what remains for me to put the question, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Section 43, subsection 4, and Regulation 5, subregulation 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund 2015, this House approves the list of nominees for appointment to the 38 constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund as attached to the order paper laid to the table of the House on Thursday, June 11th, 2020. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next.
Order number 10, the referendum number 2 bill, National Assembly Bill number 14 of 2020, first reading, a bill for an act of parliament to provide for the conduct of a referendum and for connected purposes.
Next.
Order number 11, the finance bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2020, second reading.
Chairman, Finance and Planning Committee. Honorable Limo.
All right, Mr. Speaker, I rise to move the second reading of Finance Bill 2020. And first, Mr. Speaker, allow me to express gratitude to honorable members who gave a lot of support during the discussion and passing of tax laws, which we did in 2020 to support the government in cushioning Kenyans and the economy during the trying moments of the COVID pandemic during the early part of this year. Honorable Speaker, now that we have Finance Bill 2020, the bill was published on the 5th May 2020 and first read on Wednesday, 6th May 2020, and committed to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. Mr. Speaker, this bill seeks to amend several laws, Mr. Speaker, and it includes income tax, value-added tax, the Excise Duty Act, the Tax Procedures Act, the Miscellaneous Amendment, the Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Act 2016, Tax Appeals Tribunal Act 2013, and the Public Roads Toll Cap 407, as well as the Capital Markets Cap 485A, the Insurance Act 487, the Standard Act, and the Road Maintenance Act, Mr. Speaker, as well as the Kenya Revenue Authority Act number 2 of 1995. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the Retirement Benefits Act and the Insolvency Act number 18 of 2015. Out of all these pieces of legislation, Mr. Speaker, that I've just mentioned and processed by Finance Committee, there were also two other committees who are involved in processing this, depending on the matters which were presented before us, Mr. Speaker, as directed by your office, and that includes the Committee on Transport, specifically on issues of toll, and the Justice and Legal Affairs, specifically on Insolvency Act. The proposed amendments, Mr. Speaker, to the various tax laws contained in Finance Bill 2020 are expected to raise additional revenue for the purpose of financing the 2020-2021 budget to a tune of 38 billion, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to briefly give highlights of specific laws which this finance bill is intending to amend. Mr. Speaker, I will start with income tax, Mr. Speaker. On income tax, Mr. Speaker, there is a proposal by this bill to lift both the lower and the upper limit on the residential rental income, Mr. Speaker, where currently the upper limit has been 10 million, Mr. Speaker, which is being proposed to be raised to 15 million. The lower limit, Mr. Speaker, in line with the amendment which was done in tax law, in line with what the President promised to exempt the lower income earners, especially those ones who are earning below 24,000. We had also to be this law, Mr. Speaker, this finance bill also is also recognizing that even the people in the private or informal sector who are earning their income through rental income are supposed also to benefit from what the President offered in tax laws, Mr. Speaker, and therefore the lower limit on the rental income is being proposed to be lowered, to be lifted, Mr. Speaker, because currently it stands at 144,000 per annum, which is that anybody earning below 144,000 in a year or from rental income has been benefiting from exemption of taxation, Mr. Speaker, but because the President lifted the lower income on those who are employed, Mr. Speaker, this bill also is proposing to lift the lower limit for those who are earning rental income from 144,000 to 288,000 per year, basically to align it with what was implemented in April, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the same proposal, Mr. Speaker, the National Treasury is actually keen on raising some revenue from it, and it will raise at least around 200 million, Mr. Speaker, if this proposal passes. Mr. Speaker, there is also a new proposal on taxation on corporate tax, Mr. Speaker, where initially you find that companies who have been declaring losses have never been paying taxes. And it has been realized, Mr. Speaker, that there are certain companies who, upon incorporation, Mr. Speaker, make losses throughout their life, Mr. Speaker, and therefore not paying any taxes while enjoying the infrastructure which is being laid by the government, like roads and the electricity, water, and therefore they are not contributing to the government efforts to provide robust infrastructure in this country, Mr. Speaker, to bring them on board so that all of us can contribute to the development of this country, Mr. Speaker. There is a proposal to introduce minimum tax where the business people will be required to choose which option they will take. And the option is you either pay, by declaring profit, you pay what you ought to pay because of as per income tax law, or you pay minimum tax as computed on gross turnover. So you take your gross turnover, compute 1%, and then you compare with what you have computed using the conventional computation of income. And therefore, you choose. And the requirement here is that whichever is higher, you pay to the government. So that is a proposal. This is a very, very, very good proposal, given that many, many countries, Mr. Speaker, and in fact, in our report, we have attached a list of 55 countries, which have actually used alternative tax computation than the conventional one. And these countries are actually many, Mr. Speaker. Some of them either use turnover, or some of them use adjusted income. And these countries actually, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the list, Mr. Speaker, which has been attached to our report, includes countries like Belgium, countries like Guinea, countries like India. India is using what they call adjusted book profits. Liberia, which is even applying 2%, while Kenya, we are only proposing 1%. There are countries like Mexico, which are basing on gross assets. So Speaker, Philippines, gross income, 2%. There is also Puerto Rico, which is actually very high, adjusted income, but 30%. And even Tanzania is turnover, just like what we are proposing here. And USA, which is charging at 20%, but on adjusted income. This is just, I've just mentioned examples of countries, including Chad, Colombia, among others, but there is a list of 55 countries. So this is something which is just coming now, Mr. Speaker, but it is long overdue. The government is aiming at collecting at least 21 billion. In fact, in our estimation, Mr. Speaker, as a Committee on Finance, the country, if we put in systems, proper systems, we are able to collect not less than 30 billion. Mr. Speaker, in line with what is happening now in the world, what is happening now, Mr. Speaker, is that the businesses are moving from the conventional platform to digital platforms, Mr. Speaker. And in 2019, Mr. Speaker, Finance Act, we introduced taxation in the digital marketplace. Now, what we are doing now in this particular finance bill is to introduce the actual tax now, Mr. Speaker. And this bill proposes to tax digital markets by way of applying 1.5% which is actually minimal, Mr. Speaker. These are minimal tax to start with. However, Mr. Speaker, this one, if it is applied properly, Mr. Speaker, it is going to raise a lot of tax. How it is going to be done, Mr. Speaker, the bill at some point, Mr. Speaker, is also proposing to enlist several agents, including banks and other digital service providers, so that they can actually capture. The bill is proposing digital tax agents. So the agents will be brought in together so that they can actually capture the cash transactions within the digital marketplace. So this particular market, an example, Mr. Speaker, is a situation which happened in Kenya. You remember that when this service provider by the name Uber, which is operating taxi services in Kenya, came in, there was a lot of hues and cries, and there was a lot of demonstration in this country because the other taxi operators were claiming that they were coming to fight them. However, later on, they came to realize actually that you cannot fight technology, and therefore you either join it or you become obsolete, and that has been happening all over the world, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, the only problem there is companies which normally charges tax, their services are normally higher. If you pick a Uber taxi at the airport to the city center here, you probably pay 1,000 shillings. But conventional taxi companies will charge over 2,500. The charges, including taxation, Mr. Speaker, and therefore, on introduction of this digital marketplace tax, will level the business environment, so that if you are in digital market, then you pay some tax. And if you are operating on the conventional platform, which is manual, then you also pay tax. Alongside this digital tax, Mr. Speaker, the same agents will be able to capture other taxes, including VAT, because most of these service providers are not charging VAT, and that is why they become they offer competitive services compared to the others, and therefore creating an even playing ground. Mr. Speaker, if we collect VAT, including reverse VAT, Mr. Speaker, where the person receiving service is supposed to pay the VAT to the taxman before they collect their goods or before they get the service. Because some of these service providers who are in the digital marketplace, Mr. Speaker, are not people who are residents in Kenya. Like Uber is actually based in Netherlands. Though they have an office here, but they are not registered in Kenya, and therefore, sometimes they don't pay the tax in Kenya. So what will happen is that once this system works, then we'll be able to capture. And to be able to capture this, Mr. Speaker, we have actually challenged the Kenya Revenue Authority to move very fast, and innovate and invest in technology, because we need to have very robust systems to be able to capture all what is happening in the digital marketplace. Mr. Speaker, because I want to go to the other proposals on because I'm still on income. I'm still on the Income Tax Act, Mr. Speaker. As I finalize on this, Mr. Speaker, there are several other tax deductible benefits which will be given, like subscription to entrance fees and in associations and other legal costs and other incidental expenses which were being exempted to encourage certain investments, especially in clubs and the CMA, and others were also being that people could be encouraged to invest in CSR activities. I want to say that this bill was proposing to remove them. However, Mr. Speaker, there are certain ones, especially the ones which are covering investments in CSR, where anybody who invests in construction of public school, hospital, road, or similar amenities were being given that benefit of deducting that cost when computing taxable income, Mr. Speaker. We have actually discussed this, and we have realized that this is very important because, they were contributing to the country, and at the same time, they were, at least the members of the public were benefiting from the investment. And therefore, after long consultations, we will be proposing to delete that proposal. And in fact, we have agreed even with the National Treasury that anybody who invests in a CSR in this country should continue getting the benefit of tax deduction. Mr. Speaker, there is another proposal which has been in the whole country have been crying. Our senior citizens have been crying that why do you want to tax our pensions? And I want to say that, yes, I confirm that this particular bill was actually proposing to do some taxation on the retirement benefits, Mr. Speaker, but I want to confirm that after a long consultation with the stakeholders, Mr. Speaker, and the National Treasury, we have actually agreed that this proposal is being dropped, and therefore our senior citizens should continue enjoying their benefit, because they were crying and saying that Corona is chasing us. We are told that Corona is chasing all people around. Stay in the house, and now you are coming for us through taxation. So they should rest assured that if this House supports, then the intended taxation will not happen. Mr. Speaker, I now go very quickly to VAT. On VAT, Mr. Speaker, there is a proposal to pass the responsibility of, VAT claiming of VAT is a very complex process. At some point, you'll find unscrupulous business people can raise fictitious invoices and then they claim. However, there have been a system where KRA will audit, and then they capture those ones which are okay, then they refund. However, this bill proposes to transfer that responsibility to the taxpayer, so that you prove that the supplier who supplied you have actually declared the invoices in their tax return. However, this was found by the stakeholders to be very cumbersome, and it's going to cause a lot of use and cries. After a lot of discussion within the committee and going through the stakeholders' memoranda, we have also discussed with the National Treasury and the KRA, and we have said this, that to remove all these challenges, as earlier stated, we have actually realized that the only way to remove this problem is to invest in technology. KRA, through development of tax invoicing management system teams, if they introduce and capture all the invoices at source, so that when you purchase, your details as a customer is captured at source, and the details of the supplier is captured at source, so that that invoice, upon you claiming, is actually marked in the system. That will finish all this in line with what KRA has been doing. They have invested in ETRs. However, the ETRs are not connected to KRA system. So we have proposed that KRA going forward should invest in robust system, the ones which are used by other countries, including Dubai. In fact, Dubai has the best system, where you just buy, every businessman in Dubai is connected to the tax authority system, so that once you just key in the taxpayer details, it captures that tax into the taxpayer, and once you go and claim, then it is just found in the system automatically. So we have actually challenged the National Treasury to try as much as possible to finance KRA to invest in very smart technology, which will be very good, and it will avoid all these tussles with the taxpayers. Because what we want in this country is a good environment for business to thrive. We don't want a situation where businessmen are arguing with the government, because it will waste a lot of time, and it will waste a lot of, it will actually even reduce our opportunity in collection of taxes. And therefore, investment in the technology is the only way to go. And therefore, we have said this one should be something which we are going to consult more and more. And therefore, this one, we will be moving some amendment to align it to what we were thinking that it will work well, so that our stakeholders will not really cry. Mr. Speaker, there's quite a number of other items which have been in tax exempt, which have been recommended to be moved from tax exempt to standard. And these are aimed at creating around 8 billion shilling. The government now is actually going in a way that they have actually proposed that most of the exemptions and which had been given before they are now being reviewed seriously, so that we only leave the tax exemptions and any other incentives only to essential commodities. Mr. Speaker, when I move to other proposals in the bill, other than the move to remove tax exemptions, which are listed there, Mr. Speaker, there is also a proposal to adjust the threshold for under the excise duty, Mr. Speaker. There is a proposal which seeks to reduce the threshold for alcohol strength from over 10% to 8% for the purpose of tax purposes, Mr. Speaker. This will enable the collection of more taxes to a tune of 1.5 billion. However, Mr. Speaker, we will be proposing some amendments, Mr. Speaker, to move it even further to 6, so that we can collect close to 4 billion. Mr. Speaker, there is also a proposal, Mr. Speaker, to give tax voluntary tax disclosure program, Mr. Speaker, has been introduced or proposed by this bill. What it means, Mr. Speaker, is that the National Treasury is actually proposing that we should allow people who, according to them, had not declared their income properly for the last 5 years. This program is being proposed that if any Kenyan knows that he has not been declaring his income properly, the proposal here is to allow you to declare that according to you are supposed to pay this, and once you declare that, you'll be actually allowed to pay that particular tax which you have declared without paying penalty and interest. And this has been given, and the proposal is to give for 3 years. From now on, for 3 years, that window is open. But you can declare 5 years going back. And that is going to really create a good environment for people to come to the level of compliance. Because, you find so many businesses are not sure about their compliance level. Once you declare, then you will be excused for the sins of the past. Mr. Speaker, there is also a proposal. I remember when this COVID pandemic started, Mr. Speaker, there is a lot of fear. When you want to buy clothes, you fear. Most Kenyans normally buy used clothes, mitumba, popularly known as mitumba. But many Kenyans do not know one thing, that Kenya is one of the best countries which produces very high quality clothes. Most of the clothes we buy in US, in Europe, are actually being manufactured here in Kenya at the EPZ. But there was a limitation that at the EPZ, the threshold for releasing to the Kenyan market was around 20%. So out of 100% you produce, only 20% you can send locally, and therefore it was not having a lot of impact in terms of pricing. However, the government, in terms of promoting local manufacture, at the same time helping Kenyans to buy new clothes in Kenya and quality clothes, relaxed that limit, and therefore most companies now are able to release up to 50% of what they produce to be sold locally. And in fact, Kenyans should know that they are able to get very good clothes from the EPZ. So this is a message to the business people. They They should not wait to fly out to China or to Italy. We never know when you will be able to fly out, and therefore please promote the EPZ at the same time, take the good quality clothes to Kenyans. Because of that, Mr. Speaker, there is a proposal to introduce a small fee, a duty, Mr. Speaker, 2.5% of the custom value on the goods standard for home use from EPZ. This is at least to enable the government to raise some little tax from it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I go to the tail end, Mr. Speaker, because I was just moving in summary, Mr. Speaker, there is also a proposal to introduce, you know, Mr. Speaker, there are some very, very strategic projects which have been proposed by the government, but it has been going slowly. The implementation is taking time. And members might be asking when the expressway from JKIA to Westlands will be constructed. That will be constructed using BPP, which is the public-private partnership, Mr. Speaker. But because we did not have a framework on how they are going to recover, because most of this will be a situation where an investor invests his money on a public road. However, to recover his investment, the government will not be paying from the revenue which the government collects. The investor will be required to collect using a toll. Most of the members here, I'm very sure, and other Kenyans have traveled outside, and you know, if you want to move faster, you go to the toll road, and that toll is, it will enable the investor, the person who constructed the road, to collect the funding which he used, plus agreed profit, until that road has paid itself back, maybe according to an arrangement. You know, in other countries, they say build, operate, and transfer, so that after you recover what had been agreed, then you transfer back. It will depend. Another road, which is very strategic, is to enable Kenyans coming from Western Kenya to move faster from Nairobi all the way to the junction of Mau Summit, where the road going to Kisumu and Eldoret the interjection at Mau Summit. That road is also going to be built under PPP, and to enable it to be implemented, this bill is proposing the introduction of a toll fund, which will be used to collect and pay for those particular roads. So that is the essence of this. Mr. Speaker, there is also a proposal here to KRA over services or capacity building services to others, including county governments. And therefore, it is adding more responsibility, or it is expanding the scope of KRA to include capacity building and training. At the same time, it is also allowing KRA to work for other entities like county governments, including parastotals who want the services of KRA, so that they are able to collect more and offer services to Kenyans at the same time. Because KRA has been known to be, at some point, yes, is one of, it's not the best, but it is actually in terms of revenue collection. Because what we hear from KRA is that when they move to collecting even parking fee in Nairobi, parking fee in Nairobi went 5 times what was being collected by the county government directly. So KRA can do better, even if other counties can hire them to collect for them. Mr. Speaker, there is also a proposal that in case, you know, there have been issues where banks, when they collapse, and the Kenya Revenue has had an account there, the money which has been, or funding which has been collected on behalf of Kenyans, was not being given priority in terms of payment in case of liquidation of a bank. Mr. Speaker, this bill proposes to give priority to KRA in case there is an issue of liquidation. Mr. Speaker, I now go to public participation. Mr. Speaker, in terms of public participation, in line with the Article 118 of the Constitution, The committee received a record 40 memoranda, having accorded the public an opportunity through the newspaper advert placed on Friday, 8 May 2020, Mr. Speaker, and it ran all the way to 21st May 2020, Mr. Speaker. We received several memoranda, and we received from 40, as I've said, among them, Mr. Speaker, and not limited to Kenya Breweries, Mr. Speaker, PKF Taxation Services, Institute of Certified Public Accountants, Kenya Bankers Association, KPMG Advisory Services, Oxygen, Association of Retirement Benefit Schemes, African Salia Cargo and Cleaning Services, Fund Managers Association, Jawala and Kana, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Independent Power Producers, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, Kenya Private Sector Alliance, Yuba Kenya Limited, National Social Security Fund, NSSF, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure, Shared COKE, American Chamber of Commerce, and Office of the Attorney General, among others, Mr. Speaker. And we went through all these memoranda, Mr. Speaker, and in line with the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, we considered each proposal, and they are really properly documented in our report, Mr. Speaker. Oh, okay.
Chair.
Oh, yes, Madam
you
Speaker.
You are addressing a speaker who is not here.
Madam Speaker, you know, today you have dressed like this, Mr. Speaker, and therefore, sorry for that, Madam Speaker, but let me take this opportunity to welcome you. However,
but of course, you're lying, Honorable Limo. You can't see what I'm dressed in beyond.
I've realized the reason why, Madam Speaker.
Unless you've been spying from other times.
You know, Madam Speaker, I've realized that, you know, I'm always required to use specs to see farms, Madam Speaker, and therefore I'm very sorry for that. However, I really thank the members who have given me this information. Madam Speaker, the proposal made by the stakeholders form the basis of the committee proposed committee stage amendments and other observations which we are going to use even in the future, because, Madam Speaker, most of the recommendations by the stakeholders have always formed our data bank for future recommendations and even operations by our committee. Madam Speaker, before I finish, Madam Speaker, I have to really acknowledge the members of my committee. In fact, the majority leader will agree with me that the members we have in our finance committee are very dedicated. During the COVID, they were operating here. And in fact, the members like Honorable Jimmy Angwen, Office of the Speaker, for the support which they gave us during this time. Finally, I want also to thank the Office of the National Treasury, led by the CS, Yukuria Tan, because they have been very consultative. They have been coming to us. We have been consulting them severally. And with those few and many remarks, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I want to end it here. And without anticipating debate, I want to really urge to support this committee. And I want to ask the majority leader, Honorable Duale, to second.
Leader of majority.
Honorable Madam Speaker, I rise to second. And Madam Speaker, this is the first time, and the Speaker alluded today, this is the first time this House is dealing with the finance bill at this particular moment. In the at least all the times, some of the members will agree with me, the finance bill used to have a timeline of 3 months, from when the minister gives the highlights of the budget estimate. So the deadline for the passage of the finance bill used to be 30th of September. But because that law was declared unconstitutional, then we are forced, and I think it is tidy, it's decent, that as we present the appropriation bill 2020-2021, we also present the finance bill as a house, so that as we ask, the minister asks for money, we give him the finance bill that will also help him in raising taxes. So, Madam Speaker, early this year, 2 months ago, I think, in order to cushion Kenyans and the economy from the negative impact of the COVID pandemic, His Excellency the President introduced measures, the executive that he leads introduced measures under the Tax Laws Amendment Act of 2020, which we passed. And I really want to thank the House for the passage of that tax laws. That has made this finance bill of 2020 a very short, simple bill, unlike the old finance bill, because a lot of the issues were dealt with at the Tax Laws Amendment Act of 2020. Now, Madam Speaker, allow me to express first my gratitude to the honorable members for fast-tracking the enactment of that Tax Laws Amendment Bill 2020, which had so many issues, including the reduction of VAT, including the reduction of the waiver given to personal taxes to individual Kenyans during this very trying moment of COVID-19 pandemic. And you can see today, as we stand here, 10 Kenyans have died the last 24 hours, based on what the Ministry of Health has already given to the country. 10 Kenyans have died. And the number has reached, of those positive, to 213, the highest. So I think as leaders, we must be at the forefront now to make sure that we preach and do civic education to our constituents and to our people that this disease is real, is going to impact on our lives, is going to impact on the economy, and we must all work together. Madam Speaker, the Finance Bill 2020 that the chairman of the Finance Committee has moved is before this House and proposes now to support the financial year 2020 budget. The tax laws was supporting vulnerable groups in our society. But the finance bill that is before this House is supposed to support the budget or the financial year 2020-21 budget. And in this bill, careful analysis have been made by the National Treasury that put in place packages of sound fiscal measures that will support both the Kenyan people during this emergency period, will support their businesses, and overall will support the recovery of the economy. So, Madam Speaker, I think honorable members will have time to go through the bill. It's a very important bill, and we'll have an opportunity once the committee bring more amendments at the committee of the whole House. But I want to confirm that a lot of discussion has taken place between the committee, the National Treasury, KRA, and what we expect is a finance bill that is not very controversial come the committee of the whole House. Madam Speaker, let me just go to 6 key areas that this bill touches. First, the bill proposes to amendment to the Income Tax Act in order to raise the upper ceiling of the monthly rental income that is subject to 10% monthly rental income at the rate of 15 million per year, from 10 million per year. So those who are collecting 15 million annually to pay rental tax at the rate of 10%, now they will pay at the rate of 10% instead of 25%. Anybody who was collecting rentals at the cost of at 15 million, before they were paying 25% rental tax, but now with the passage of this bill and assented to by the president, they will pay 10%. What does that mean? Then that means this House and government expects landlords to pass that benefit to tenants, particularly during this difficult period. So there is an amendment, a positive amendment to the income tax on rentals. Secondly, Madam Speaker, this bill proposes to caution farmers from the high cost of seeds for sowing by exempting the corn maize seeds from VAT. And this is intended to increase food production in our country, especially maize, which is a staple food, and again more during this period. Madam Speaker, thirdly, this bill proposes to exempt ambulance services in addition to other medical, nursing, and dental services from VAT, which are currently exempted from VAT. Madam Speaker, the essence of this proposal by the National Treasury will further cushion Kenyans from the high cost of seeking medical services, as the use of ambulance services is expected to be cheaper, both in urban and rural Kenya. Number 4, Madam Speaker, this finance bill has proposed to exempt currency notes and coins procured from Dealeroo, Kenya, by the Central Bank of Kenya from the payment of the railway development levy. So any investment by Dealeroo is now exempted from the payment, anything they import from the railway development levy. And this is just to reduce the cost of printing notes and minting coins for the country, further making more savings. The more we reduce the printing of currency because of reduction or non-payment of the railway development levy, we expect government to make some savings. Madam Speaker, this bill also, the fifth one, proposes to exempt from railway including material supplies, equipment, machinery, motor vehicles for only the official use by the Kenya Defence Forces and by the National Police Service. So any equipment, any supplies, any motor vehicle that will be imported by the Kenya Defence Forces and by the National Police Service will, in future, if this proposal passes, be exempted from the payment of the railway development levy and the import declaration fee. Why are we doing this? Why is government doing this? What was the intention? And this is to reduce the cost to security forces and enable them, enhance security in our country. During this period, along our borders, we know Kenya Defence Forces has done a very good job. They are making us safe from all sorts of external threats, either from terrorists. And it is in the interest of our country that we build the capacity. Madam Speaker, the sixth one, this bill proposes to introduce something called, very important, for the first time I've seen in Parliament, a voluntary disclosure program under the Tax Procedure Act to allow taxpayers disclose any tax liabilities they have for the last 5 years, prior or before the 1st of July 2020. Madam Speaker, this, number one, will enhance tax revenue collection through improved tax administration and compliance by the citizens in paying their taxes. And number two, this program, which has been introduced even in the budget highlight, is meant to provide an opportunity to taxpayers, our citizens, to fully disclose their tax liabilities in their books of records. And that this program will run for 3 years and will provide relief from any penalties. So we want Kenyans to come and engage with the taxman and within these 3 years and disclose liabilities. Madam Speaker, this bill contains other various amendments aimed at improving the tax administration and enhancing tax collection. The issue of the minimum tax, the issue of the digital service tax, all those are contained in the report of the committee tabled by the chair. And, Madam Speaker, let me also make it fundamentally clear that the finance bill is a money bill. So amendments to this bill must be subjected to Article 114 of the Constitution. Because the committee has already met, not once, not twice, thrice, in consultation with the National Treasury. So the CS National Treasury and the committee in their consultations are the only ones, I think, in most circumstances who can bring an amendment. Because I remember, Madam Speaker, that if we bring a fundamental amendment, then the element of public participation is lost, and somebody can go to court and challenge that. Madam Speaker, the Finance Bill 2020 proposes to amend the Public Roads Toll Act to enable persons who enter into agreement with the Cabinet Secretary responsible for transport or roads to collect road tolls on roads constructed and managed under such agreements. This will facilitate the use of the public-private partnership in the construction of specific roads. This is very important because the Mau Summit Road is a public-private partnership that will open the western part of Kenya, beginning from Nakuru all the way, so that we can't fund so major highways where people can pay some little money, like that kind of a road, then we need to have the legal framework. So the tolling aspect of the private-public partnership in the construction and management of roads is an aspect, and the creation of the fund is an aspect that is in this bill. And of course, the flyover from Jomo Kenyatta International Airport all the way to Westlands, passing next to Parliament, and I'm sure help a lot of us from the traffic jam. All this public-private investment in the road network and the tolling require the legal framework. So I really want to ask members that we pass this so that that fund is established, of course, and managed by the CS Treasury and CS Roads. And it has gone through public participation in both committees, the Committee of Finance and the Committee of Transport. On financial sector, Madam Speaker, I'm just remaining with two. This bill proposes to amend the Retirement Benefits and Capital Markets Acts to enhance the regulations of pension schemes and capital markets. I think there were two areas. One was on the pensioners, and the committee have agreed with the National Treasury that on that one they will step aside. There are a number of other areas that the National Treasury and the committee have agreed in terms of, is it the right time? Yes, it's not the right time. What do we do? Then in the finance bill, then you extend the effective date. You can say the effective date can be 1st of July 2021. I'm sure All that will come when we reach the committee of the whole House. So there are amendments. This bill proposes certain amendments to retirement benefits and the Capital Market Acts in order to enhance the regulation of pension schemes and capital markets in our country. Madam Speaker, as I move, allow me to thank the committee for their commitments in support of this. The finance bill, in fact, the finance committee is just like the budget committee. It's
Honorable Leader, please conclude.
Yeah, I'm just concluding. So the finance committee is more like the budget committee. During this period, they are very, very busy, and I'm sure both committees have done a wonderful job. I also want to thank His Excellency the President on the measures he has taken, including the ones in the budget, to cushion Kenyans and business against the adverse impact of COVID-19. With those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I beg to second.
Honourable members, I go on to propose a question, which is that the Finance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2020, be now read a second time. Honourable members, I see quite a number of requests, and I hope that all the members are here, and each member has 5 minutes. Is it 5 minutes? 5 minutes to contribute. Let's have the Honourable Member for Dagoretti South to start us off. Honourable Waweru Kiari.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And the opportunity to contribute to this is not taken lightly. I do appreciate. I'd also like to commend the chairman of the Finance Committee and his committee for the work that has gone into this. And Madam Chair, there are quite a number of things that can be said about this year's budget. And there's quite a lot that can be commended and quite a number of issues that need to be critiqued. Madam Speaker, I'm really happy with with the presentation made by the chairman, especially to the effect that the committee is considering the issue of pensioners being taxed. Madam Speaker, we all know that the pensioners in this country are actually earning just a fraction of what their salaries was. The pensioners in this country, Madam Speaker, have people that they're taking care of. They have commitments. And when we saw the proposal to tax pensioners, Madam Speaker, some of us actually made time to come here early so that we can put in our voice to what the chairman has said, that it would be ill-informed for us as a House to move that we tax our pensioners. Madam Speaker, there is a second issue that I'd like to take up with this finance bill, and this has to do with taxing of the digital economy. Madam Speaker, we know that we have been promising the young people of this country jobs for years upon years. Finally, as a government, this country has not been able to offer the jobs that they have been promising the young people. Our young people have resorted to new and emerging technologies as a way of business. We have young people who are running online digital businesses. We have young people who are conducting their shops, who have formed their shops online on platforms like WhatsApp, on Facebook, and other digital platforms, Madam Speaker. And in my view, I think it would be very wrong for us as a House to move that we shall be taxing this new digital economy, because for some of these young people, it is the only thing that is left for them as a means of livelihood. So, Madam Speaker, as far as digital online content taxing is concerned, I will stand to oppose that, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there is the issue of the LPG gas.
Honorable Kiari,
Yes.
just a correction. You have 10 minutes. Each member has 10 minutes to contribute. There is an exception to the finance debate on the finance bill, and that is according to a resolution that was passed by the House in February. Go ahead, Honorable Kiari. So you can reorganize your thoughts to 10 minutes. You don't have to finish, members, but it's important for you to know that you have up to 10 minutes to contribute.
Madam Speaker, I'm very well guided, and thank you for highlighting that for me. And I will just put my thoughts across. And if there is some time left, I think I'll be magnanimous enough to donate it to any other member who will be keen to be contributing to this, so that I can make time for more members to contribute. Madam Speaker, the two issues that I had raised earlier was one on the pensioning, on taxing the pensioners, and secondly, the issue of the digital economy. Madam Speaker, where we impose taxes on these two, we shall be punishing actually a group, one of the pensioners who are really busy trying to make ends live, and secondly, we shall be taxing the youth who are trying to make a living out of new and emerging technologies if we go on to tax the digital platforms, digital economy, and any other businesses that are being carried out online. Madam Speaker, after punishing our pensioners and punishing our youth, we shall then be dealing a blow to the women of this country when we go ahead and increase the tax on LPG gas. Madam Speaker, we are at a time when we are trying to run big campaigns to convince our people that it is not prudent to be using charcoal. It is not prudent to be using firewood and all the incumbent health hazards that come with wood and charcoal. How then, Madam Speaker, do we on one hand tell Kenyans to not use charcoal and gas and firewood, and then go on and impose a very high tax on LPG gas? Madam Speaker, we are here to legislate. We know that the process of budget does belong to Parliament, but we are not here to punish our people. Madam Speaker, I believe it's about time that this House actually came to the realization that we are empowered as Parliament to constitutionally to actually approve these tax variations that are being proposed. Madam, I do believe that with a good and robust debate, we shall be able to attend to these matters. Madam Speaker, I'd like to bring up the issue of zero rating of FLA. Madam Speaker, I think in every single member's mind here, we all understand that FLA is a staple in this country. Madam Speaker, we have been able to zero rate milk. We have been able to zero rate bread. Milk and bread is consumed in urban areas. The staple for every other Kenyan is actually FLA. So if we could be able to zero rate milk, we could be able to zero rate the bread. This is the cake of the rich. Then we have no reason why we should not zero rate FLA for that person who is consuming ugali, who is consuming chapati as their staple. Madam Speaker, I remember that a member did stand in his place in this House and tell us that this budget is an extraordinary budget for an extraordinary time. So, Madam Speaker, if we are making a budget for an extraordinary time, I would like to see us debating on how we can zero rate FLA, just as we are zero rating bread and milk for our Kenyans. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, I'd like to say that yes, I am in support of the chair and the committee and their presentation. However, I wanted to bring those three things on record so that it goes unanswered that we did speak about our pensioners, Madam Speaker. We did speak about our youth who are earning out of our digital economy. We did speak about the women who shall be paying higher if we levy taxes, higher taxes on LPG gas. And Madam Speaker, finally, I do also want to go on record for that final issue, that we can actually zero rate our flour. Much appreciated, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Let's have the Honourable Member for Lego Usonga, Honourable Atandi.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to make my contributions on this year's finance bill. And I want to start by saying that I support the bill as presented by the committee. And I would like to say that the finance bill is literally how the economy is going to raise the resources that will be used to fund the budget. And so, throughout my life in this parliament, Honorable Speaker, this is the first time that we have a more simple finance bill. And I want to just make a few remarks on just 3 areas. One, on income tax. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that I support the proposal to introduce what is called minimum tax. Honorable Speaker, there are so many businesses in this economy that run each year, and they do not pay tax because they make losses. While doing these businesses, they use the infrastructure that will be set up and funded by other taxpayers. And therefore, I think it's very important that we be able to normalize everybody in the area of tax payment, especially on this line. So the introduction of 1% tax of turnover of each and every business is going to help to ensure that all businesses that are enjoying government infrastructure are actually paying for it. The other thing, Honorable Speaker, is on VAT Act. Honorable Speaker, on VAT Act, the bill proposes to cut substantially what is called tax expenditures. Honorable Speaker, in the previous finance acts, there have always been proposals to create more exemptions. So these exemptions, in a nutshell, have worked towards denying the economy the required resources that are necessary to run the economy. So here, the bill proposes to substantially cut a number of those exemptions, and in the process, the finance bill, this finance bill is going to ensure that the economy realizes, in a nutshell, more than about 10 billion of tax expenditure which is going to be saved. So therefore, Honorable Speaker, these proposals are very important because you realize that as an economy, we have the budget side which we need to fund, and we must raise the resources to fund it. So the proposals contained here of standardizing VAT on most of these items is going to help. I also want to add that the bill proposes to waive VAT on seeds, on maize and corn seeds. I think this is very important because you realize in this era of COVID, one of the sectors that this economy is going to rely on is agriculture. And so if we are going to allow our farmers to access seeds cheaply, especially maize farmers, I think this is going to help this economy. So I think this is one of the proposals which I support in this bill. The other proposal which I support is on tax procedures. Honorable Speaker, there's an introduction of what is called voluntary tax disclosure, which is going to allow those people who are having tax issues to come out and declare and negotiate with KRA. And I think this proposal is timely, Honorable Speaker, because in the past, Kenyans have been complaining about the manner in which KRA is executing its tax recovery mechanisms. And you've seen that some Kenyans have, even the president, I think, complained that KRA was being vicious in the way it was seeking to recover taxes from people who are defaulting. A case in point, Honorable Speaker, is when we complained that, KRA was being used to undermine local companies, to undermine hardworking Kenyans, and most Kenyans were very unhappy when companies such as Keroche were arraigned in court. Well, we do not oppose the criminal prosecutions of tax defaulters. But, Honorable Speaker, KRA must be able to employ other mechanisms such as what we are introducing here, which is going to allow them to engage tax defaulters and people who have tax issues, and they are going to talk to them, and they are going to have a mechanism of payment. Personally, Honorable Speaker, I've been opposed to this prosecution of tax defaulters because, as you are aware, first of all, judiciary is not even effective. If you take a tax defaulter to court today, that case will take 10 years. And a company that is being prosecuted in court will not perform, the output will not be the same as if that company was negotiating with the carrier on those issues. Therefore, this proposal to me, Madam Speaker, is going really to help even carrier to recover more taxes, because those people who are having tax issues are going to come out and they are going to engage carrier and they are going to discuss these issues. And this law, even though it has a period in which it will be applying, I would like to plead that this law needs to be extended so that it is going to serve this economy for long. And lastly, Madam Speaker, my colleague, the MP for Dagoretti South, introduced a very important subject. Honorable Speaker, I come from Ugali eating zone. You know, Luenyanza and Western is all Ugali eating zone. Village. And I realize that Ugali is very difficult to come by. The reason why Ugali is difficult to come by is because the price of maize flour and wheat flour is really high. And I think in the sense of the argument which has been advanced, that this parliament has been able to zero-rate milk. We have also been able to zero-rate bread. So there is really no excuse why this parliament should fail to zero-rate maize and wheat flour, because this is really what a lot of Kenyans are eating. Even if you go to Central, every other part of Kenya, everyone is eating ugali. It's a staple food. Therefore, I would want to plead with this House that this Finance Bill 2020 will make sense if we will be able to allow our people to access maize and wheat flour cheaply. It will make a great sense. Because other than the fact that we are seeking to raise substantial revenues, which we have actually been able to address, because if you look at the tax expenditures which we have tried to create in this bill, those proposals actually can be used to mitigate the expenses which the government is going to incur in meeting the costs associated with zero rating of maize flour. And this is something that's going really to help our people, to allow our people to live with dignity and to eat. I do not think that in this era, we members of parliament can be sitting here to make laws and at the same time our people are dying of hunger. I think we will be doing nothing. So we have to ensure that we protect our people, we allow our people to access food, staple food which they like, easily and cheaply. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support.
Well said, Honorable Atandi. Only I'm not sure your statement about being from an Ugali eating zone. It's very debatable because I think most Kenyans will claim to be from Ugali eating zones. But very well put, very well put. Let's have the Honorable David Sankok.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to put my voice on this very important Finance Bill 2020. Honorable Speaker, and from the onset, I do support this Finance Bill, and I thank and congratulate Honorable Limo and his team for having a very easy to understand Finance Bill, and really have worked very hard to make sure that it beat all the deadline so that we can be able to finance the budget that we have just passed in this House, Honorable Speaker, because without the Finance Bill, Honorable Speaker, having a budget of $1 trillion will be nothing, Honorable Speaker, and sometimes it will lead us towards probably borrowing more and having very high debt, Honorable Speaker. But if we put in place bills that will make sure that we collect enough revenue to be able to finance our own budget, Honorable Speaker, that will be very good, and that is why I congratulate Honorable Limo for the good work done. Honorable Speaker, we also cherish those days, although I was not in the House, Honorable Dr. Kimunya was here when he was the finance minister. He will be sweating in this House if we had CSS within this House, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and that's why earlier members were supporting that the CSS should be part of this House. Honorable Speaker, though this is a House of an honorable House, which only allow honorable members to be within, so does not allow dishonorable members or disorderly members from outside, strangers to be within this House. So we'll live with this one until probably this issue of BBI and the referendum, I don't know, was it reg also, so that we can be able to bring this thing. Honorable Speaker, now going to the budget, Honorable Speaker, the cash transfer to severely disabled persons has been constant for a period of 5 years, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and the fund allocated to the National Council for Persons with Disability have been reducing year in, year out, by either, like this year, it reduced by 59 million, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we should also be able to, because the ultimate test of any government is in the manner in which it treats the weakest members of the society. Persons with disability are among the weakest members of our society, so we will also have to know how to be able to cushion them. Honorable Speaker, zero rating of packed milk and bread, Honorable Speaker, as Honorable Atandi has said, Honorable Macharia has said, is for the rich, Honorable Speaker. We should be able to request the Committee on Finance to be able to come up with ways of us zero rating what is really needed on the ground. And that is what they said, the ugali and the chapati, which is the maize flour and the wheat flour, Honorable Speaker. I think we should, including even rice, Honorable Speaker, because Honorable Atandi is coming from a ugali eating zone, and Honorable Sophia, my chairman, is coming from the rice eating zone, Honorable Speaker. So let us zero rate what is really required by the weaker members of society, because what we are saying is that this budget process, which include the finance bill, Honorable Speaker, is within the extraordinary time and require extraordinary measures. The extraordinary measures that we need is to cushion our citizen. The only way we can cushion our citizen is not to zero rate packed milk, because you know it is, Honorable Kiari, it is actually packed milk that is zero rate, not the milk that we sell in chupas and so on, the Masai milk down there. So let us, and that is for the rich, let us zero rate what is required there on the ground, Honorable Speaker. 1% tax on rental houses, Honorable Speaker, I do support this one 100% because rental income, you cannot compare a building that is in Embakasi, Nairobi, and a building that is in Ntondo, Narok. You cannot compare the rent that is collected. It is collected, it collect more rent from Nairobi because of the infrastructure that was put in place. And this infrastructure is built through taxes, Honorable Speaker. So taxing rental income, Honorable Speaker, is an idea which we have seen in other jurisdictions, in other countries, Honorable Speaker. We are, the Honorable Limo had mentioned so many other countries, Honorable Speaker. So I think even 1% tax on the rental income is still on the lower side, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, tax waiver on maize seeds and corns, Honorable Speaker, is very important because the backbone of our economy is agriculture. So if we waive taxes for all the seeds, not only for maize, but all the agricultural seeds, Honorable Speaker, and even go further and waive taxes for agricultural input, Honorable Speaker, this one will change our country in terms of the backbone of our economy, which is agriculture, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and during this time of the COVID-19, Honorable Speaker, because of bills and rents in the urban centers, majority of our citizens have migrated to rural areas. So now we have urban center rural migration instead of the rural urban migration, Honorable Speaker. And we can tap on this energy that is going to the rural areas by waiving taxes on agricultural inputs so that they can involve themselves in agriculture, Honorable Speaker. And this COVID-19 may actually turn out to be a blessing in disguise, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also appreciate the committee for dropping taxing of pensioners, Honorable Speaker. Because, Honorable Speaker, we cannot be cushioning our senior citizen. We cannot be giving monthly stipend to our senior citizen, 70 years and above. And at the same time, we want to tax the little pension that they normally receive, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, every member of this House will one day go towards aging, Honorable Speaker. Go towards 70 years, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, during that time, Honorable Speaker, you will have retired, but you will be having a lot of lifestyle diseases, blood pressure, diabetes, and so on. That is the time you really need that money, Honorable Speaker. Taxing of pensioners, Honorable Speaker, was not a very good idea, and I thank the committee, together with the ministry, for dropping that particular ignominious idea that they had introduced earlier, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'm also happy of the express highways that will be built, express to the airport and others express to bypass Nakuru, Honorable Speaker. These roads will be built by public-private partnership, Honorable Speaker. And we have seen in other countries, Honorable Speaker. In America, Honorable Speaker, most of the members have traveled to New York. There are channels that are built, very good roads that are built through private-public partnership, Honorable Speaker. And they only attract a little fee, so if you are in a hurry, Honorable Speaker, sometimes it saves a lot, and it saves a lot of fuel to bypass those roads, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in the same breath, and I want this one, Honorable Limo, to listen to me, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, because Honorable Limo is very busy talking with Honorable Cheboy, the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, I want this one, Honorable Cheboy, to listen, because it's very important. In the same breath of public-private partnership, Honorable Speaker, on express roads, let us also go to SGR, because at the moment SGRs have just reached a murtoto. If we can have public-private partnership so that we can extend that SGR via Narok, Ewasongoro, all the way to Kisumu, Honorable Speaker, then it will be a good idea, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, taxation is mandatory if we are to support our budget without much borrowing, Honorable Speaker. And that's why we support this Honorable Speaker Finance Bill. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, we need a lot of resources to be put on the weaker members of our society. Weaker members of our society, if we don't tax maize flour, if you don't tax rice, Honorable Speaker, that one will trickle down to the weaker members of our society who cannot afford packed milk and cannot afford bread and other issues, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, with those very many remarks, I do support this finance bill 100%, mia kwa mia.
The Honourable Member for Kathiani, Honourable Mbui.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I also rise to support the Finance Bill 2020. Madam Speaker, I want to begin by saying that this finance bill has been designed and put together at a time when the nation is going through a lot of challenges. And so I think the CS and the committee have had to balance between this revenue for the nation to be able to fulfill its obligations, pay salaries, ensure that development still goes ahead, and at the same time, deal with the idea of cushioning citizens and businesses during this period of this pandemic, which is generally all over the world. So it's a very delicate balance. I think they have to balance, you know, it's like walking a tightrope. So, Madam Speaker, what has the CS done? First and foremost, he needs to raise revenue. So what he has done is that he has tried to expand the bracket. Because I look at the idea of raising those people that are paying taxes, income tax on rental income, and I realize it's not just an idea of reducing from 25% to 10% for those who have, who are paying rental income for up to 15 million. I think it's really an idea of widening the bracket, because I think some of those that have houses and pay rental income of maybe between 10 million and 15 million, maybe some of them are not being caught. So the idea now is to use a simplified taxation method, which is simply a 10% payment. And I think that will help to ensure that more people actually pay their taxes. So that's one of the ways I think is used to ensure that more people come into the tax bracket and more people pay what they owe to the government. Mr. Speaker, again, the other thing is that on the Tax Procedures Act amendment that he proposes, I think the idea is to also ensure that those people who have not been paying taxes as expected over a period, in fact, he's talking about 5 years, that these people are brought into the tax bracket and they pay. And the idea is to issue that relief or as an incentive that if you have not been paying taxes, you can now pay what you owe over the last 5 years, but you will not have to pay penalties and there will be no interest on what you owe. So I think that's really important. And considering that the proposal is to take it for another 3 years, I think that will help to raise quite a lot of money for the government. Madam Speaker, there are quite a lot of benefits in the finance bill. Not to forget that just recently we passed another bill which is similar to this, that was giving incentives that helped to the benefits that we received first were that the income tax was reduced from 30% to 25%. The turnover tax was reduced from 3% to 1%, and VAT was reduced from 16% to 14%. So other than those incentives, which obviously, looking at the budget, what has happened is that those incentives are costing the exchequer about 172 billion. That's about 10%. So now there is need to raise more money so that we can cover that deficit. So, Madam Speaker, what proposals has he given further to ensure that he helps the economy? One is that he is intending to protect local industries. And how does he propose to do that? To ensure that excise, or rather import duty, is still charged on imports for iron and steel products at 35% for a further 1 year. Again, he proposes that duty on paper and paperboard products again will be charged at 25% for a further 1 year. In other words, he's ensuring that if you're importing those products for which we can be able to produce locally, then you pay more for them. That means that the local industries will be protected from international competition. He proposes also that leather, and I'm happy because I come from Machakos region, and the leather industry is actually in that region, the Kenani leather industry. He proposes that in order to protect that industry and local leather industry and footwear industry, that there will be a charge of 25% duty, import duty, on any such products. Madam Speaker, he also proposes to increase from 25% the import to 35% the import duty on electrical items and the accessories. So basically the idea is, if you're increasing the import duty, you're discouraging people from importing, which also goes together with the plan for ensuring that we buy local and build Kenya. Madam Speaker, there is also the proposals to import duty-free so that we can encourage local industry to import those inputs that we do not have. And these are inputs for mobile phone assembly. The world is going towards the use of telephones and mobile phones all over. You know, even when you talk about our children who are at home right now, a lot of them are using mobile phones, even for their education, you know, because a lot of schools have gone into that technology because the children are too idle. In fact, in Machakos County, they talked about over 4,000 got pregnant because maybe of this business of staying at home. They are not going to school. So it's important. When mobile phones are more accessible, then schools and teachers can communicate with the learners. And so any inputs for mobile phones are zero rated, no duty. Inputs for the production of diapers are also, there is no duty on those. Inputs for making of masks, sanitizers, ventilators, and PPEs. Those deal directly with the fight against this coronavirus. And I hope that this doesn't go into the finished goods, because a lot of this can actually be produced locally. So it's important that it be just the inputs and not the finished products. Further exemptions, Madam Speaker, are on maize and corn from VAT, and also ambulance services from VAT. So, Madam Speaker, there's a lot of benefits that this Finance Act has proposed to Kenyans. But the challenge I see, Madam Speaker, is in the imposition of the digital service tax at 1.5%. Madam Speaker, my only concern with this, it's not a bad idea to tax the digital economy, because that's where business is being done. Now people want to buy food, you buy it online. You want to pay for services, you do them online. And almost everything has gone online. But Madam Speaker, when you impose a 1.5% tax on a digital service tax, the problem is we are not giving a limit. It is important that we give a lower limit, because there are some people, young people, like some of our colleagues have said, who have gone into that industry or into that business as the only option to have some kind of employment. And Madam Speaker, some of them, they write papers on behalf of other people, and the payments are also meager. So it is important that we have a limit, after which now people can start paying. But you cannot pay on everything that you get, because I mean, Madam Speaker, then we are not encouraging these young people to also be able to benefit. Madam Speaker, there is a Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Act. There is a proposal to exempt KDF and National Police Service from import declaration fees and railway development levy. This is because, it doesn't make sense. On one hand, we appropriate funds here, we give KDF, we give National Police Service. Then when they do importation based on the money we've given them, again, they're paying tax on the same. They're using the same money to pay the same government. It's the same thing like when we give money for CDF, and then you give this money to project management committees, and then you tax them VAT. It doesn't make sense, because you're just taking money from one pocket and putting in the other. So, Madam Speaker, this is one of the things that I think makes a lot of sense and needs to be supported. Madam Speaker, I also support strongly the idea of public-private partnership in the issue of roads. You've seen in the developed world how people travel. You travel in comfort, because generally, Madam Speaker, some of those roads that are being supported by individuals, you have to pay toll for it. And so most of the people would use the more public road. But sometimes people have emergencies, people need to, to get to destinations faster. It helps to expand the transport network. So, Madam Speaker, I also support that. And because I can see my time has run out, Madam Speaker, I think I'll just finally say that the idea that committee has proposed on improving VAT refunds is a very welcome idea, because that's, when you delay refunding VAT, it's just the same as, having unpaid bills. So it's important that we hasten the process so that people can be able to get their VAT refunds and invest that money to develop the country. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support.
Honorable Kaki. Kaki, member for Kitui South. Is it Kaki or Kaki?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It's Kaki, and it means what for. So later, when I'm not speaking, we can talk about it. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Also to add my voice, I would like from the onset to say that I support this report. And I also would like to thank the chair and his members. More so, I would like to thank the chair for the way he presented. He moved this report in a very simple way that it was very easy for us to understand. And also the way the majority leader also seconded and also focused on different issues that the chair had not focused on. Honorable Speaker, I would like to say that with regard to income tax, the matter which was of high interest to me was the one of taxing the digital platform businesses. Honorable Madam Speaker, we see a lot of apps being used in this country, Uber among others, and they keep growing and growing. But the biggest question is, are they being domesticated? Are the people who are involved in this being registered as they enter? Then the other question is, the benefit of this business is, do the people who are doing the real business, how much benefit are they getting? I was also able to look at the percentage that they are taxing. It is really reasonable, 1.5% is reasonable. But I would like to say that another committee could look at whether the people who are driving these taxes are really reaping from the benefits that should be there. Madam Speaker, the other matter which was of interest for me is the exemption of taxation for CSR. You know, CSR focusing on schools, healthcare facilities, etc., where our people are directly benefiting is a matter of a lot of interest. And I would like to thank the committee and say that, yes, it is important that we attract as many investors in the area of education and hospitals, among other areas of CSR. Honorable Speaker, I was very interested on the matter of no taxation on pensioners. Madam Speaker, most people who are getting their pensions today were employed in the 60s. And Madam Speaker, these people were employed on very low salaries. So you realize that their take home is quite low. And when it is exposed to the current levels of taxation, they can lose quite a substantial amount of money. So I would like to thank Treasury and the Committee for making this decision not to tax pensioners' benefits. Madam Speaker, I would like to go now to matters of VAT, where I believe that I have a lot of interest. One is the matter of LPG, Madam Speaker. The cost of LPG is directly related to the number of people who are cutting down trees. And I would like to give an example of where I come from, Kitui, where many people were cutting trees. There were sacks and sacks of charcoal along the way. And you realize that this has gone down because a 6 kg cylinder of gas cost about 600 to 900 shillings. And this has made many people to move from the dirty energy and move towards LPG. I was just engaging the chair. You must have seen me go back and forth, and he was saying that this matter has been stayed for a year. This is a move in a very good direction, and it should not be only for the LPG gas itself, but also for other equipment that are used in construction of facilities that help in ensuring that the gas goes into the cylinders. So this is a matter that is of a lot of interest, and I would like to say that it is a move in the right direction. Madam Speaker, I also heard the chair say that they are going to put proper connection such that business people or investors are able to declare their taxes in real time and also ensure that declaration in real time and also collection in good time. And I think this is going to ensure that our government gets the revenue that it requires and that also we are fair to the businesses. Madam Speaker, I also heard the majority leader talk about voluntary tax disclosure program. Madam Speaker, it is important that we know as a House that most people who have involved themselves in businesses, and especially of late with devolution, is that it is people who may not have proper understanding of businesses, do not have proper understanding of tax returns. So giving voluntary tax disclosure and giving some time will give these people an opportunity to consult if they had been overcharged and get enough time so that they are not denied tax compliances. I believe that I understood that, such that they are able to continue with their businesses as it were. Madam Speaker, I also listened to the issue of EPZ, where Treasury and the committee has made a very good decision that 50% of what is being produced be sold locally at about 2.5% VAT. Madam Speaker, the people working in EPZ are our own constituents. And also, we agree that now there are challenges of import and export. And the fact that if this 50% goes to the country, then it is giving an opportunity for our local businesses to tap into EPZ products, such that we are also able to do businesses locally. Madam Speaker, the other matter which was of interest to me was the matter of PPP and having roads constructed using PPP and also using toll stations to collect money. All of us who have traveled, and I believe many Kenyans are traveling abroad now, is that they see the toll stations out there. And the good thing is that there is a choice to take the ride where you are paying toll, and also you have the choice not to take the road that is paying, that is being charged, meaning that it is a fair way. It is going to enable us to do many projects using PPP and also use the money that has been collected such that the companies are able to pay themselves. But, Madam Speaker, I would like to say that there is also a catch here, where the committee and the other relevant committees, which are involved, for example, infrastructure, etc., should also get involved so that people do not give low rates so that they collect forever, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like also to say that the matter of KRA collecting is a very welcome move. And since I see my time is about to expire, I want to run very fast on this because it's a matter of big interest. They say that collections by KRA have made Nairobi County to collect 5 times what they used to collect. I would like to say that I chair the parliamentary committee, and I've seen a few of my members here, that the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning collects lots of money. This financial year, they were targeting 16 billion. I imagine a situation whereby a ministry like this is assisted by KRA and is able to collect 16 times 5 billion, or even 16 times 4. This is a move in the right direction, and I would like to thank the committee for a very good job done, and thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Baya, yeah? Oh, sorry. Excuse me, Honorable Baya. The Honorable Leader of Minority has priority by virtue of the standing orders. And unless the Leader of Minority wants to donate his space to Honorable Baya. Very well. Honorable Baya.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I would like to start by saying this. This is one of those budgets that has gone beyond what was there before. We have a big financing gap. So as we are discussing this budget, Madam Speaker, we need also to focus on the financing gap that exists. We are collecting through taxes around 1.6 trillion. After the but we have a budget worth 2.7 trillion. We have a big financing gap. So this country, I can see us coming back here to do amendments later on to see how we can raise, where we can raise the money. But more importantly, the chances that we shall borrow from the domestic market are very high. When we borrow from the domestic market, Madam Speaker, you know what happens to the economy. So that is one of the things that we need to caution ourselves as Kenyans. As we move to this 2.7 trillion budget, we need to know where to get the 800 billion so that we can finance the many programs that are suggested in the budget. Notwithstanding, Madam Speaker, I would like to congratulate the committee, one, for dropping the taxation on pensions. I think this is a move in the right direction. That pensioners are people who are earning less than what they're supposed to have been earning, but then now we are trying to put a tax on the earnings that they have. Now, it is good that this has been realized and been suspended so that pensioners can continue to enjoy the pension that they have. That is one. Two, taxation of the digital economy. It's a very simple economic principle that if you want to grow a certain sector of an economy, give it time to grow before you start taxing it. It is too early for this country to start taxing the digital economy and platforms that we have and the sales and the marketing that happens online. And for us to give a chance for the young people to exercise and show their abilities, I think we need to encourage them. And we need to drop this digital economy tax that we're imposing at this time. I do not think this is the right time. There's an adage that timing is very important when trying to make a decision. And for the growth of this economy, we need to give time for the digital economy to grow so that we do not start taxing young people or put some effort to try to market and sell things on the digital platform. I would urge that as we are coming to third reading of this finance bill, that we may drop this so that we give young people an opportunity to grow this economy. Then at the right time, a right opportune time, we can tax it. Third, rental income. I think we have seen, I've seen the Honorable Leader of Majority celebrating that we are now taxing rental income less, and he said that he hopes that this will trickle down to the rent payer. But also, I have learned from some of the economists in this house that when you tax when you reduce an income tax, it does not necessarily go down to benefit the people. Just like when you reduce VAT on bread, and I hope that the VAT you've reduced on bread will trickle down to the consumer of the bread. This is actually one of the things that when we are saying we are reducing income taxes on rental income, I do not think we have mechanism to ensure that it trickles down to the people who are paying rent. In other words, we are adding more money to those people who already have the money. I think we need to look at other ways of raising money other than saying we are taxing rental income and we hope that it will trickle down to the people. The other important thing which I need to speak about is LPG gas, 14% on LPG gas. I think as we come to third reading, I hope that we'll be able to drop this. Because right now as it is, this country is suffering from drought. Many areas in this country have suffered severe drought. Trees have already gone. If we start taxing LPG gas, what is likely to happen is that people will revert back to charcoal. If we revert back to charcoal and firewood, what will happen is that this country, the rate of desertification of this country will move very, very fast. So I hope as we move to third reading, I will be able to drop the LPG gas. And interestingly, Madam Speaker, if you look at it, LPG gas has the highest tax amongst the petroleum products right now, at 14%, while petrol is not taxed at that much, while kerosene is not taxed at that much. We are taxing LPG gas, which affects very many households. Those households who can afford 500, 600 shillings to buy LPG gas for cooking, let them be encouraged to do that instead of discouraging them so that we go back into firewood and charcoal. I would like to commend the committee on the Minister of reduction of tax on ambulances and ambulance services. I think that's a great move. Why? Because there are many people who suffer at home. They would like to get an ambulance to go to hospital, but the cost is prohibitive. To reduce it is actually going ahead to mitigate on affordable healthcare and making sure that those that are sick can afford a tax or decent movement from home to the point where they are able to get medical services. Madam Speaker, I would like to talk about something else, that's taxation on home ownership saving plans. This country is talking about affordable housing for everybody. That we want everybody to own a house, have money to buy a house and all that. But what we are doing in this budget, we are putting a tax on home ownership saving plans. That actually counters the government, one of the government big four agenda items on affordable housing. Because if we are taxing on home saving plans, it means therefore we are reducing the amount of money that a person is at which the person is ready to buy a house, because we are taxing the home saving plan. And I think that is not a very good tax, and I hope the committee will look at that and see how we can remove that. It is actually at a very high rate of taxation, that home savings. So this is one of the things that we need to ensure that we don't. I want to speak lastly on EPZ. Madam Speaker, the economy as it is, exports and imports have become difficult because of COVID-19 and all that. Our EPZ under the AGOA Treaty, which still subsists, allows us to sell, I think, 20% of what we have to the domestic market. But I can see a good move from the minister that at least the EPZ, 50% can be sold into the domestic market. It means, therefore, securing the jobs. That's what it means. You are securing the jobs that already exist within the EPZ. That, therefore, ensures that families have disposable income. Otherwise, I would like to say that this budget, while it has given some very good things to the people of Kenya, and Kenyans can celebrate, but it has also not. It has also taken away some certain fundamental incomes that they would have. So, for me, what this budget 100% would be something that's not very likely. But I would say there are good moves in this budget, and we can strengthen them as we come to the third reading to ensure that Kenyans get a good life, and that as we move from COVID to a non-COVID sector, the country is cushioned. I think I want to say thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Now, my able leader of minority can take it up from there. Thank you.
Honorable Baya, that's not for you to say. And then something very interesting. You know, I've seen people hanging masks in all manner of places. But you've introduced one which is very, very comical. Let's have the leader of minority.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, this year's Finance Bill 2020, I think is one of those finance bills which are very few proposals of amendments to our tax laws. I think since I came to this parliament, probably this is the most limited in terms of proposals to change or vary rates of taxes. Madam Speaker, it is interesting to note that we are coming up with this bill and with the many changes at a time that this country seriously needs revenue. And that is something that when we discuss this bill as a House, we need also to take note of. As I congratulate the committee for doing a good job and making various proposals to reverse some of the suggestions or recommendations by the Cabinet Secretary, I hope when we get to the Committee of the Whole House, and I must acknowledge, I must also confess that I have not read into details the report of this committee. What I did was simply to take the finance bill and analyze it. And so my contribution will be based on the original bill without the report of the committee, the benefit of the report of the committee. But I hope the committee has tabulated, calculated in terms of how much we are going to lose by making various amendments to the finance bill, so that we get to know as a country how much extra budget deficit that this country is likely to have. Because you see, when the Cabinet Secretary or the Treasury talked about 1.62 trillion as the projected revenue, they had taken or factored all the proposals that are in the original or in the finance bill, so to speak. So, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I was actually asking the chair of the committee that when we get to the Committee of the Whole House, for each of these amendments, he should also be mentioning to us how much we are likely to lose by making those amendments. So that is the first comment I wanted to make. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I have no issues. There is a proposal to amend the residential rental income tax to push the upper limit of the amount where the 10% rate of tax is applicable from 10 million shillings to 15 million shillings per year. Madam Speaker, I would not have any problem with that. I think it is also beneficial to those taxpayers, those landlords who are getting rental income above 10 million shillings, so that they pay at a lower rate. Because otherwise, any amount beyond 10 million shillings rental income was treated as any other income. And therefore, you are required to pay income tax, previously at 30%, now say 25%. So this will be a relief if these individuals were actually paying tax. Because the problem, again, we have in this country is that a number of these potential taxpayers don't actually pay tax. Madam Speaker, on the issue of minimum tax, this has been canvassed and discussed in this House. I don't want to dwell on it much. I want to move, Madam Speaker, to the digital services tax. And Madam Speaker, I want to disagree slightly with my colleagues who have not been seeing merit in imposing this tax. Madam Speaker, digital services tax is actually a consumption tax. And my background in accounting, in finance and taxation tells me that most of consumption taxes are not as prohibitive or punitive because you only pay it when you consume the service. And you consume the service when you can afford it. So, Madam Speaker, much as we may want to protect consumers, we must also be alive to the fact that the government needs money to function. There is no way the government will be able to provide services, including the health services that we desperately need today, without taxing Kenyans. And we must agree that sometimes we must let go some of the comfort and enjoyment that we have been, some of the comfort that we have enjoyed previously. So to me, unless now one can argue that charging 1.5% of turnover may hurt irreparably, because that may not even be the profit that these businesses make, that is the argument that I think can make sense. But just saying that a digital services tax is not desirable, in my view, I want to disagree. Madam Speaker, it is interesting on home ownership savings plan that we are now telling Kenyans that it is no longer necessary to provide incentive to save for home ownership, and we talk of affordable housing. We talk of Big Four agenda, where housing is one of them. In fact, we have told the government a number of times that you cannot, it is not the duty of the government to provide housing to individuals. It is actually, if a good government should provide a platform and a good environment, favorable environment for individuals to be able to own their own homes. It is not the business of the government to build houses all over the place for individuals. It's not even affordable for this, for poor countries like Kenya. So, Madam Speaker, I don't understand the rationale that the government now thinks that it is important to impose this taxation, yet previously we had acknowledged that it is something that would be necessary to motivate more Kenyans to owning homes or saving to own their homes. Madam Speaker, something that I think also needs to be looked at is the issue of now, of the issue of repealing that some of these items below, Madam Speaker, these expenses, be subjected to tax and not allowable, like issues of certain costs incurred for purposes of listing at the Nairobi Stock Exchange or Securities Exchange. Madam Speaker, we should not be sending wrong signal to our economy, especially the financial sector. The intention may be perfect, but what message are you sending across? You are sending the message that now you are going to subject Nairobi Securities Exchange to taxation because the economy is struggling. So, Madam Speaker, it is important that we look into the message that some of these proposals send to the economy and the possible effect. In fact, one of the reasons why the capital gains tax was a hot debate in this country is what message was it going to send? Actually, it was not that the capital gains tax is a bad tax. It is a very good one, because really, those who make money out of capital gains are rich people. Very few poor people get involved in investing in Nairobi Securities Exchange or even put up real estate. How many Kenyans get involved in real estate business? These must be serious people with good money. Even Badi, I don't think even in a year I can deal in 2 houses. It's not easy for me, and I'm